Good evening. Welcome to this here best flat earth explanations or arguments or descriptions. I'm waiting for some people to join me. It looks like everybody's chickened out with the prospect of having to bring their best. So I'm going to bring mine. Excuse me, I'm just looking at the lighting. It's making my nose look extra big and Jewish. Be right back. By the way, according to family historians in my family, we have Jewish heritage from way back when. At some point in Spain, it was lost, apparently. 1 second. Okay, we're set. Apologies for that, everybody. Okay, what I'm going to do as people join, I'm going to ask them to present the argument in a way for other people to replicate how it's being presented. So I'm going to tell you how I present this argument, okay? And you, of course, you don't have to do the same. You might be much better at expressing the same principles. But when we're talking to flat earthers, and we know that flat earthers know lots of different things, sometimes it's easy to forget that people will be watching this who might be relatively new flat earthers or relatively young flat earthers, and that they might not know those same things. So I'm going to express it as if I was talking to somebody who's either new to the flat earth or is still a globeling. So the gyroscope. The gyroscope demonstrates that the earth is flat. This is a curve. This curve denotes or represents a point on the earth. For this illustration, to make it simple, this is going to represent the equator, a portion of the equator. You can see what a portion of a circle this would be. You make the circle be a big pizza. This is a portion of that. So you can determine how big this is. Maybe 3 hours, maybe 4, depends how much of a or how flat you do this curve. So I'm going to pretend that this represents 4 hours of movement, which would be 4 segments of 15 degrees each. Let's see if I can mess it up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, okay. 4 segments of 15 degrees. So 15 degrees, another 15, another 15, and another 15. Now, first, a gyroscope is mounted on a plane, not just flat. On an aeroplane, it's mounted and it's sped up on the ground. When it is on the ground on the plane, this mark represents a gyroscope on a plane. It has not taken off the ground. And a gyroscope is fixed in space. It has what they refer to as rigidity in space. It doesn't change its orientation depending on gravity or anything like that. Once it's spun, it carries on spinning in the same position at which it has been spun. So if you spin it like this, it stays like this. No matter what you do to the outside, it will remain at this angle. So if you spin it like this, it will remain at this angle, regardless of what's going on around it. So this, which is a plane's gyroscope, spun level before it takes off, will have that same angle, that same rigidity continuously. So at this point, which means, and better if you do actually draw it, that you're going to draw this same angle here and each point. So, and we're not going to raise the elevation. We're not going to move. We're not going to play with altitude. Okay, an altimeter is a different thing altogether that works on air pressure. So this is how I present this argument to globelings. I am placing the gyroscope displaying rigidity in space. Now, forgive that this is slightly not a uniform curve. Now, you see this point, that's level to the ground, but 15 degrees later, that's not so level to the ground. 15 degrees after that, that is less level to the ground, and so on and so forth. Its angle is continuous. It's the same. It remains the same. Now remember, I'm telling you how to put this argument. This is a gyroscope on a plane, and this would be a plane flying over approximately 4,000 miles at the equator. The globe link, or the new flat earther, will start to rationalize that perhaps what happens is there's something that makes the gyroscope turn ever so slightly as the plane is flying around the curvature. But that is not what gyroscopes do. If they did that, then all the planes that existed before such a device was invented would have crashed. Because, and this helps as well, that's representing a plane's artificial horizon. And this artificial horizon goes up and down on this screen. So it goes up and down depending on the plane's relationship to the gyroscope. So as you go up, the horizon drops down and it tells you you're going up. As you go down, the horizon goes up and it tells you you're going down. Okay, so this is how this works. Oh, maybe it's the other way you go. Anyway, however, now the point is this tells you your plane's orientation. Once you've argued that this is necessary for planes and they have counter-argued this, then you remove the plane argument and you say this is denoting 4,000 miles at the equator, more or less, or 4 hours at the equator. So you remove the plane, you remove those objections, and you bring it to a desk. A desk on the equator with a gyro spun on top of the desk should curve around the Earth. And the gyroscope, as you curve, should display this motion, 15 degrees per hour at the equator. Everywhere else too, but there's different angles and cosines and whatnot. But at the equator, it should do this as time passes, okay? So that it does this all the way around back to here at the same time the following day. That's what should happen on a spinning globe Earth. That's not what happens. What happens on the Earth is it remains rigid, just like the Earth was not moving and was certainly not moving, making any circle. Remember, this is representing the equator, okay? Which means this kind of slice, turning like this. Now, when they say, well, do I just have to take your word for it? You say, no, take a look at this video. So I'm now going to play a video that shows an experiment demonstrating that there is no such angle shift on the, where are we? Here. Okay, just bear with me. Let me see if I'm displaying what I want to display. Apologies, I'm manning this on my own today, and it can be kind of tricky. Let's see. I have to watch the screen that's displaying what I think is being displayed. Okay, it's not displaying what I wanted to display. 1 second. So again, try again. Okay. Aha, I have it. No, I don't. Yes, I do. Here it is. So, whoops. Nope. Trailer Park Boys. Oh, it's back here. This. Now I'm going to start playing this and I'm going to quickly switch back to the other screen to see if it is actually displaying. Okay, so I press play. Let me check. Yes, it's displaying. Okay. Now let me switch down the Trailer Park Boys. And I'm going to play the audio.
Keeps its position. So that's just spinning up there now. You might be able to hear it. Even at this low speed, the gyroscope will hold its position. You know? Okay. So what we want to do, line it up exactly.
Time lapse.
movement whatsoever. As the video is showing, no one's tampered with it, touched it, gone anywhere near it. So what I'm going to do now is move the protractor underneath it and simulating the movement of the Earth, showing you that it's not fixed, glued, or whatever other craziness you think I might be pulling. So, can you look at this? See how much? There you see, if anything below it was moving, it would maintain its position with rigidity in space. And we started it off there for 6 hours and we had no movement whatsoever.
Now I'm going to play a portion of this video.
Hi folks, this is a follow-up to my first gyro video where I performed a couple of experiments to see if I could replicate the work of Leon Foucault back in 1852, where he proposed that a spinning gyroscope can demonstrate the spin of the Earth below us. So I'm just getting this one up to full speed with the motor. So I'll take that off, turn the motor off. Come on, there we go. So I've got that spinning really fast, 12,000 RPM according to the manufacturer, and I want to put out a challenge, and that is that I'm prepared to post this gyroscope out to anybody who believes that the Earth spins and that Leon Foucault's experiments back in 1852 were legitimate and not flawed in any way, and they believe that this can be demonstrated using a gyroscope. So I will post this out, including all the little accessories that you get for the gimbal, counterweight, some of the accessories, the electric motor, and the deal is that I'll give you, 30 days from receipt of gyroscope to put out a video showing the apparent drift due to the rotation of the Earth below us, to the exact angle according to your latitude on the Earth. It must be precise. It must be videoed and put up on YouTube. I would like it back after 30 days, regardless of whether you can or can't replicate the outcome. So I've had 33,000 views on the first video, and nobody yet has come back and showed me any proof, demonstrated anything to the contrary. You would have thought it would be pretty easy. This was a known problem, or it's apparently a known problem. It's inherent to all gyros. They all exhibit this apparent drift due to the rotation of the Earth. Yet, from the couple of people who have demonstrated this so far on YouTube, haven't been able to replicate it. I mean, somebody must be able to replicate it. It's apparently a known problem, and different technologies such as Schuler tuning have been invented to overcome it. Well, this gyroscope doesn't need any Schuler tuning because it can't be replicated, and we all know that science is all about replication, repeatability, and if it can't be repeated, it's not science. So there's the challenge right off the bat.
There you go. So let me stop presenting. Oh, we have some people here. So I'm going to present and present. You're both muted if you want to unmute. So show in broadcast. Anthony and Chris, welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hi, Anthony. How you doing? You're muted.
Yes, very well, thank you. Yeah, good, guys. Wonderful. Just a beautiful day again. And yep, I'm going to enjoy listening for a while before I've got about an hour's work, so I'm just going to listen for a bit.
Okay, cool. So, Chris, and this is for anybody out there in chat, anybody who wants to join and give your best discussion, example, explanation on flatness, let me know. Type X. I'll find a way of getting a link to you. You jump in and you tell us your best, or what you think is the most effective. The reason I chose this, okay, is that scientists can't argue with this. This is what Rob Durham is referring to as apparent drift. This would be the drift at the equator. Now, with different latitudes, you have to make well, you don't have to, but you're supposed to angle the gyroscope at different points for earthly drift, So nobody seems to be doing this. When they're trying to do this, they seem to be referring to theory, but no video representation, none that I've seen anyway. So anybody in chat who'd like to come on, maybe your best example or best illustration or best description is pictures of the horizon or elevation or anything else. So anybody who has, you have Brian Burton. Brian Burton. Okay, dude, here comes the link. Okay, so just give me a second. Chris, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm about a week and a half into my MMS consumption, and it's going really well. Feel great. Yeah, I just feel like I'm speeded up, like my metabolism, my thought, I just feel like I've been, I don't know, upgraded.
Yes. Yeah. This is one of the things about MMS, although MMS is not actually flat earth or bod. This is one of the things about MMS. It helps you to get rid of lots of things in your body. And some of those things might be in your central nervous system. So it helps communication. Chris, let me share controls with you. And as people come on, if that's okay with you, if you would present them. So showing broadcast. So we have Brian Burton with us. You're muted. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I enjoyed watching Infinite Plane Society. It was good. So, Brian, what is your best flat earth demo or explanation?
Sun doesn't line up with everybody.
Oh.
So check this out. It's a little experiment me and Zoo are working on right now. Hopefully in a couple of days we'll have it up for viewing purposes. Taking the naval military data that gives us the rise, the azimuth, and altitude from different locations for the sun and where it is during the day. Me and Zoo have been mapping it out. We can't get the lines to intersect on a globe.
You know that I've been working with Vincent and Karen on this very same thing.
On your solar noon?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're doing the triangulation from the actual angles at the exact same time and using the naval military data that they provide. And we have not been able to get the lines to intersect on a globe at all yet.
So that's an excellent proof. What would you say is happening? They are not intersecting, so they are not pointing at the same area in space.
We're moving the data to a flat Earth map now to see if they intersect on the flat map.
Okay.
Of course, we started with the globe because that's where all the data comes from and everything else. And we've been messing with it for about 4 days. And the natural assumption is I've been doing something wrong. So for 4 days, been going over the math over and over and over and rechecking everything. And we cannot get them to intersect at the same time to triangulate.
They won't. And they won't on the flat earth map either. They will do this kind of crossing over, various different crossing overs.
And that's an interesting problem, but shouldn't do that on the globe with the science.
That's it. Well, what we have to do first, the globe is finished. The gyroscopes show this, the images of things that are way too far beyond the horizon.
Now, just for record, on the gyroscope, that just proves the Earth doesn't spin.
Yes.
Just for the record. Not flat or globe, but it proves it doesn't spin.
Yes, absolutely. Which is why I started. Were you hearing from the start? That's why I started off for when people say, okay, well, that just means the Earth is not moving. It could be a geocentric version. It's like, okay, but it doesn't on the plane either.
But planes don't use gyros for altitude.
No, altitude is irrelevant. It's the journey.
They don't use it for position. They use, for lack of better words, I know you can get mad, they use a level that uses gravity for actual position.
For the curve, for their artificial horizon, it's a gyroscope.
No, they don't.
Really?
Planes don't use that. Yeah, they don't. Unfortunately, they don't. They should. What we need to do is to get somebody to get on a long plane and take a handheld gyroscope powered and do that. Or a long drive across like the United States or Australia or something. But the plane's actual navigation system, they don't use a gyro to navigate with.
Are you absolutely sure? Because I've heard Rob Nodell saying that the gyroscope is spun before they take off.
They do.
Horizon.
And but here's the thing. It's used for, like, for example, tanks in the military use gyroscopes too.
Yeah.
And we set them and everything else. But technically, they're only used for quick, short emergencies that you've been moved left or right. And then they reset constantly. See what I'm saying? Or in a tank, they use it to keep the gun online. But their actual navigation, they have gyros on there, but I'm not sure the explanation they say they're for is what they're for.
They have the two. They have the roll gyro and they have the pitch gyro.
It's a level. It's a bubble level.
Okay, so it's a bubble level, but it used to be a gyro.
No, I don't think so. I'm just saying I don't think they've ever used it. Otherwise, they would know that they would be going over. So what we need to do is someone take a handheld electric gyro on a flight to see what they do. See, we're taking their documentation of what they're saying they use gyroscopes for. I don't think that's what they're using them for. Well, I mean, they say they have GPS antennas on there too.
Absolutely, they do say that. Yes, we can't take everything they say, but
which are on the belly of the vehicle.
But this is the thing. Hey Zulu, we have Globebusters. My cousin's a pilot too. He's not a big company pilot or anything, but they do have to learn about the gyro.
They do. Just like a geodetic surveyor learns about the curvature of the Earth, but they never use it.
Well,
but they learn all the math.
Yes. So
but they've never used it.
The pilots for the Air Force were taught and are taught about the gyro. The pilots altogether are taught. They're explained that the pitch and roll is based on the gyro, not on a water level.
But I've actually held the instruments for the Apache helicopter, and it's a gravity bubble.
Oh, that's totally fine. But
I'm just saying, I know what they're taught and they're told. I don't think that's what they're used for. Yeah. So the only way to confirm is, I think, is for someone, whoever's getting on the next flight, long distance flight, buy a little handheld power gyro, sit in your seat with you, and then you see if it does something.
So
I can't take the technical documentation saying they use a gyro.
Okay.
Because I don't think they do.
Fair enough. I can do that myself because I'm flying to Spain in the summer. So I will do that myself. It's like it makes a tedious flight less tedious. So I will do that myself, and I will video it, and it's going to be fun. Now
it will be.
The plane gyro is one argument. So if let's suppose that they were using gyros on planes, and they were using gyros for pitch and attitude, and it showed that they were flying over a plane level surface. Okay,
be flat.
Problem flat. Yeah. Now remove that. Remove the plane argument. Just the Earth. So you have maybe it's round, but it's not moving. Okay. Now,
that throws almost all the science out that they talk about.
Absolutely, completely. It's gone.
Especially the whole gravitational of the sun and everything else.
Yeah. So if that's the case, it's like, okay, now, so we live in a geocentric world without curvature. Now, I'm going to take a gyro on a plane. It's 3,000-mile flights approximately, and we'll watch it process or not process. And if it does not process, then
you're flat.
We're flying, just like Mark Sargent showed a graphic of planes at altitude from various different points. They go up pretty sharp and then go straight flat and down, all of them within this very flat trajectory, depending on which way but it's all flat. So and it's a shame that I don't have Bob here who could say, yes, we do use gyros, because I have actually heard him explaining that we do.
No, I agree, but like I said, I would like to see exactly the tech. You know me, I'm very specific.
And also I'm not saying that I wouldn't believe Bob. I'm saying that unless Bob's actually taken the thing apart and seen it.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yes. So I'm totally with you. On the Earth turning, you see, with a globling or with a globe believer, if you can demonstrate to them that the Earth is not turning, that I would say would be for them step one on the staircase of disbelief. Like, sorry, that's gone, and that's a huge change for them.
Oh, it is, because without the spinning of the Earth, most of their formulas and science and everything else is out the window.
Oh, completely. The sun is turning around us, and that, as Copernicus showed, is like doesn't make much sense. If the sun is so big, why would it be turning over the subservient body, which would be the Earth? So Zulu. Brian.
Hello.
Hello, Zulu. Brian, do you want to go over again your best description of flatness?
The best description of flatness. No, I don't have a lot of good descriptions of flatness. Minus the sun thing's not working out for us right now.
Well, if you include the sun not working out with the Earth not being a ball, like, wait a second, if the Earth was a ball, so let's say the gyro doesn't process because the Earth is a ball and the Earth is not moving, then the points should converge, should they not?
But I will throw out something that will throw NASA science off easily. Is comets. This is one of my favorite ones. Halley's Comet comes back, every 76 years or so?
Yeah.
Comes around, makes a close orbit, quote, around the sun and goes back out, right?
Yes.
Well, what makes it come back? What makes it come back?
Their argument is it is perpetually on a corkscrew that way. So if we're moving this way in space, the sun, then it, for some reason, is continuously flying in that direction. But what you're saying is, and which is true, its furthest most point is so distant, and it's a comet, that there's gravity doesn't explain this letting it go out there, and then at the point that its gravitational pull of the solar system somehow starts pulling it back, and not towards Jupiter or one of the other bodies, but towards the sun.
Right. It doesn't make sense because it's got enough velocity to leave the sun's pull. And if the sun is strong enough to pull it back from that distance, then Venus and Mercury probably would be in the sun right now.
Bong. That's one of those bong.
Right. So
yeah,
I've looked for the explanation of why it comes back. And you can't say it's some other, Nibiru or another sun or something out there it's curving around, because if the solar system is spinning, it would never make that exact arc again to reach it.
Yeah. And there's another point to Halley's Comet, which is Halley's Comet was discovered not by prediction of globe, Earth, or solar system moving through space. It was discovered by observation from the Earth. So we're on the Earth, and Halley is looking through records and sees a note of this comet that appeared. And he carries on looking through records, and he's not looking for comets, he's just looking through all kinds of stuff, and finds that this comet, again, that's 2 times an unexpected comet, goes back on the records and sees it a 3rd time and sees that there's 76 years between the 3 different apparitions, and realizes if this is a repeating thing, it will happen again. And it did. Now, that's all based on observation from the Earth off the sky, not on observation of momentum and distance from the sun or anything like that.
The problem they had is scientists don't like question marks. So they came up with, I'm not going to even say theory, they came up with an idea of how to explain it, but it's nothing to be proven or factual.
And it kind of...
It's an idea.
The idea contradicts other ideas, which is like the very Goldilocks balance zone of all of the orbits, why they don't get pushed away or pulled towards. They're all in their own Goldilocks zone, their own specific orbit, and that's based on their mass and the gravitational pull of the sun. Well, this thing has different mass, lower, less density than Mercury or Venus
or Jupiter.
So it doesn't work.
It doesn't work, and that's the problem with scientists, is they come up with these ideas this is what explains it. Just like the Dyson sphere that scientists put out, which was a crock of shit. You heard about that one, right?
Tell me.
Tammy star is what they're calling it. They found us doing that light thing to find exoplanets and all that shit. And their data didn't make sense. Basically, they got the star and they said this is what the scientists say, this is how bad their ideas can be. They only had 2 explanations. Either 1,000 comets were crashing into the sun, which they said was unlikely, and they published this, and they did a TED Talk and a whole bunch of other shit on this, or they've discovered a Dyson sphere, which is a group of aliens building a sphere around a sun the size of the orbit of the Earth almost. They actually published that theory.
Either a very unlikely series of meteorites striking a sun or asteroids.
Comets. They got to be really big.
Comets, yeah. So these would be bodies that gas out as they get closer because of the heat and the momentum and Newton's second law and all of that, which is very unlikely, but maybe is aliens building a huge sphere out there in space. How unlikely is that? Maybe less unlikely than...
Don't know, but again, their ideas, they published them. There's got to be some other ideas or maybe I think their computer was wrong. How's that one?
Well, you know that they've got an equation to demonstrate that there is alien life out there. There's actually, I forget what it's called.
They've got an equation for everything.
Yeah. So really I like to make a distinction though. This is theoretical physics. The practical physicists will be scratching their head going, why are these guys always getting the freaking headline? I've just developed a freaking, faster than sound beam that transmits sound waves. Why are they getting this, Yeah.
You got to look at equations. When you see the equations, you got to look at what variables they put in. For most of the math for, quote, the globe and everything else, you go find the formula for the distance of the sun. Well, how the hell did they get the distance of the sun?
Kings dethroned, that's how.
They got the distance of the sun by figuring the size of the moon and measuring how they disappear with each other to get the distance of the sun. But how do you know the size of the freaking moon? They haven't traveled across the moon, so then they're using another equation, and they can't say it's triangulation because the triangulation's not matching up, as we're finding out.
Here's the thing for people out there. This was going to be I was expecting for there to be more people, and I was going to go last, and I thought if somebody else does the gyro demo, then I'm going to have another one. Okay, so the sun, what's the sun's diameter? The moon's diameter is approximately, I forget if it's 2,300, 1,300.
I think it's like 3,000. I'll look it up real quick to make sure. I don't want to put out numbers.
Yes, the diameter.
2,159 miles.
There we go.
Again?
Patrick.
Again?
2,159.
2,159. So its
Mile.
radius. What's its radius, Chris?
1,079 miles.
Okay. So 2,159. Its width, its size. It's, cut through the middle, how big it is. Okay. 2,000. Okay. How many times would 2,000 fit into, 1 second, let me put this together. How many times would 2,000 fit in 100,000?
50.
Okay. And then another 25 for the 250,000. Yeah?
Yep.
So grab yourself a basketball, a football, tennis ball, doesn't really matter. And do this. Place it somewhere. Work out the ratio, how many of them you're going to need to establish distance for you, just your eyes, okay? The bigger the ball, the more the distance. So the ratio is all that matters. And you're going to have a football here, and the last football, which is the actual distance and size of the moon, is going to be at the end of this long queue of footballs. Remove all of the other footballs, basketballs. Remove all the other basketballs. That's the size of the moon at the distance that they say. Now, can you see a crater on that tiny little basketball that's freaking miles away? Not miles, but a big distance away from you? Can you see a crater?
Well, the real question is how do they determine the size of the moon?
Yes, yeah.
Seeing how I just read an article about, the moon's bigger on the horizon and then gets smaller as it goes up and bigger back on the horizon. And science can't explain why. They have 3 different, quote, explanations on it.
Well, they
don't know why it does that.
The original way that they decided what the distance to the sun was by triangulation, by trigonometry, a triangle. You have a baseline, 2 angles.
Doesn't work.
I know, but this is what they based the theory on. This is what the premise of the book by Gerard Hickson called Kings Dethroned. Hipparchus did this. Hipparchus said, dude, it's very far away. And first, it was 3 million miles away. So far away, 3 million was already a huge number because they can't fit, because they don't have a big enough baseline. You have to have 2 points to determine the angle, to determine the hypotenuse, which tells you the length, the distance. Okay. So if you've got, it's the equivalent to trying to measure how far something is away if you're using an inch. So 2 angles, an inch apart. How far away is the mountain? You can't. You would have. But if you have 2 angles that are maybe 10 miles apart, then you can establish how far away the mountain.
Well, they also determined that following the time lapse of a lunar eclipse can tell you the size of the moon, but then you have to know the size of the Earth. See, again, the equations are balanced upon somebody else's. Says This is what this is in balance and top and top and top. You go down the bottom one, find out that's wrong. Everything's gone.
Yes, and this is precisely the. I urge everybody, it's available on PDF. Gerard Hickson, Kings Dethroned. Very well written, very simple, not simple, very educational. And it describes exactly this, what Brian's talking about, what I'm talking about. They couldn't figure out, there isn't a way that they could figure out that the moon was very far away because they were thinking they were on a sphere. They couldn't figure it out, okay? So they said it's very far away and the stars are infinitely distant away. Literally, they are an infinite distance away. And based on that, the Earth must be small and turning.
So here's a funny thing, I think, statistic-wise. So they've, quote, been finding all these exoplanets and all that, right? Thousands of them now. But isn't it funny how they've never found one like, quote, the Earth?
Say again.
They've supposedly, Neil deGrasse Tyson says we're not special and everything else, right?
Yeah.
But they have not found a planet in, quote, the Goldilocks zone, the size of the Earth.
So if we
haven't found a planet like...
Yeah, if we were not special and this was not a special place, then nearly all of the other ones could be very...
They would have found one by now out of all those thousands, you would think. I think the closest one they said that was going to be, quote, like Earth, it was like 4 times our size.
Yeah, so we'd be just squished.
But yet we have Venus and Mars, which is close to our size in our own solar system. So we have 3 planets at this size in a, quote, Goldilocks zone. But no other, quote, place has planets like us. Statistically, as they like to use, they should have found one by now.
Yeah, but they just need some more funding and then they'll find it.
Yeah, it's the second they find one, they lose their funding for it, right?
Mm-hmm. That's it. CSETI and all of those guys. Hey, Zulu One, do you want to unmute?
Yes, I'm here. Hello,
right,
how
cool.
are you? Good evening.
I'm good. Are you happy showing your face?
Yeah. I just don't, because I'm in the garage and my bandwidth sucks.
Check you out. You look like a Jedi.
Oh, nice. nice. Yeah.
Okay, what's your best flat Earth?
Use the force.
What's your best flat Earth description, explanation, or proof?
Gotcha. What did it for me was going back to curvature, physically getting off my butt and going down to the shore and looking and just opening my eyes and looking and realizing, because when you're on a sphere, from any point to any point, you should have drop, because you're going around a sphere. So when you're at the shoreline, I shouldn't really be able to see hotels that are 25 miles up the coast, 30 miles up the coast, or at least only see half of them because there should be curvature. And yeah, you could say there's land there, but the ocean is right there, so you can't dispute the ocean. If you tell us that it's curved, then I shouldn't see those hotels. It happened to me summer of, or earlier, actually it was summer of 2015. We were on vacation in Myrtle Beach, and I stumbled onto Crow 777. Then I watched Mark Sargent a couple times, found Eric Dubay, and that was the first 2 nights we were there when we were just getting ready to crash. So every day at the beach, I'm looking and looking and looking and looking, and it doesn't make sense. And it kills me because this is the standard formula, and I don't see that curvature. That's my proof. Or maybe it's not proof. Maybe it's my observation. I should get off the butt, go down to and look, because I don't know. I think I did this for me already, but with your field of vision, when you're standing at the shoreline looking out, how far is from right to left that you can see, because you have almost 180-degree field of vision as a human in miles, and that's another weird thing. I was told as a child, taught in school, that the horizon, when you stood at the shoreline, the horizon, the edge of the water, was 20 miles away, not 3.5 or whatever. It's very strange.
Yeah, well, this is because since flat earthers started looking at this, a lot more people looked at the actual curvature maths, which is the 8 miles per inch squared, 8 inch per mile squared formula of the ocean. Like, we're talking ocean, curvature on a ball. The land features are different, of course. So now we're all aware of this. So they taught you at school. At my school, they taught us about the horizon. There are 2 of them. There are 2 horizons, apparently. There's the astronomical horizon and the true horizon. And guess which one of those is theoretical?
True horizon?
Yes.
No.
Yes, the true horizon is theoretical. The astronomical horizon is the eye level horizon.
Interesting.
And the way they explain this to children is by showing a ball with a giant, approximately, maybe 3,000 miles tall, with a line that goes from his eyes down to the ball, and that's called the true horizon, and a line that goes out from his eyes sideways, and that's called the astronomical horizon.
Interesting.
And I can show this right now. I'll pull it up and show.
So now you would be able to calculate that. Is that called the field of vision, the width, the right to left?
Yes.
Along the horizon? Now that would change, obviously, as you go further out.
As you go
now,
out?
What away from your distance, as you go further out, your object, let's say you're tracking an object, and as out, your field of vision is getting bigger.
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
It should do the same to the front of you as to the side of you, or at any angle to your eyes. Yes,
okay.
It should do the same. It should disappear at the same rate. There should be the same curvature in all directions.
Right. Okay. See, and that's what hooked me. Sorry. That's what sucked me in. And then I started talking to people and asking them questions, and I don't know. I still haven't gotten answers.
Anthony, it's because there's no curvature. I tell you what, I kind of resent a little bit when people say to me, well, then if I say, how come you can see the Isle of Man from Blackpool? And they say, why can't you see the beach of the Isle of Man? It's like, dude, why can't you see any of it is the question, not why is there a small line that you can't see. Sometimes you can't see the beach from 200 meters out when you're swimming. You're looking at the beach. It depends on the how sharp the land goes in, how quickly the depth increases, and all kinds of variants. You can be looking at the beach and you're not seeing the froth. You're not seeing the foam. So So I'm looking at horizon, and I'm going to pull up some depictions.
Yeah, I think that's a good one that people can actually go do that doesn't require equipment. Just use your own eyes. I mean, yeah, sure, there's optical illusions and things and, mirages and stuff that exist. But, be realistic. If you're standing on the beach and it's a beautiful, clear day and you can see 25, 30 miles up the coast and see the water on one side and the land on the other and know that those are 20-story buildings that you shouldn't be able to see, you have to question it.
Mm-hmm. So I'm now going to screen share the horizon deal. What's given as a description. This is how our children are taught. Actually, this would be how our teenagers are taught. Children have an even more simplistic version. So let me screen share without giving anything away. Let me know that you're seeing what I'm showing.
Yeah, all clear.
Yeah. So now, when I last looked at this, there wasn't that third horizon, which is the visible horizon. Can you see? The true horizon is the theoretical one that goes to the ball. The astronomical horizon is what we all refer to as the horizon, that thing that's at eye level no matter where. And now this is a third one. I was not familiar with that one, the visible horizon, which it looks like they're saying, well, the visible horizon is a bit lower than the astronomical. So you might see things that are a bit too far away in terms of miles. This is a new one, by the way. I'm telling you.
Yeah, that seems like they're implying something.
Yes. So we have 3 north and we have 3 horizons, according to the world of gibberish that are trying to ad hoc stopgap.
That truly doesn't make sense. How can you be looking? So, does it tell? That implies that I'm leaning backwards now.
Yes.
That I'm not standing straight up. Why would they do that?
Because they have to.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, this is how to dumb down a generation, it takes a variety of different things. There's poor diet, poor entertainment. So, for instance, stop all your children from playing outside. If they play outside, they're going to engage in all kinds of interactions and they're going to learn about things like momentum. You now have people who don't let their children run. So if you don't let people understand, if you don't let a child grow up to learn the implications of momentum, then you can tell them anything you want about movement and they'll believe you. So if you don't let them run, you're not letting them fall. You're not letting them bang into things. They're not learning about momentum. They're not learning about kinetic energy. There's a whole range of things that they're not learning about. Natural. And then you can tell them, look, this is what happens. And the child will look at this, they're familiar with that thing, that curve, because it says Earth. So they'll think, all right, okay. And they won't stop. They won't have the critical thinking skills to determine that that's a giant that's about 2,000 miles tall, this thing there. And the tree, never mind the tree, don't get people started about the tree. But look, and because you have an equation, you see the equation for the true horizon? That's how, that's how they will start. There's no equation to the other two. It's just, wait, is there? I can't see.
What's the other one? Height, something meters in parentheses here. Is that what it is? I can't tell.
But that's just a description. Height in meters. Yeah, sure. But look at the other. The square root of 23 hours per kilometer, or is it? Or what? What is that?
13. Oh, nice and Masonic. I like that 13.
Yes, 13. It's like, wow. Okay, so this is how they bamboozle people. So if people out there really think that there is more than one horizon and that the one that actually meets the Earth or the limit of sight is the theoretical one, not the astronomical. I would understand it a bit more if they made it the other way around and said the one labeled astronomical horizon was labeled true horizon and the true horizon was labeled astronomical. I would understand that and they could maybe get away with that because they could say, yeah, well, you see, we say astronomical horizon because observatories are high up from sea level. Therefore, they have a lower horizon. They might get away with it if they'd done that, but they didn't. So there you go. 3 north, 3 south, and 3 horizons on the globe. Magnetic north, what is it? Magnetic north, geographic north, and true north. Which of those is more likely to be the equivalent to true horizon? The theoretical one. The one that does not exist, and therefore cannot be properly determined. There you go.
Wow.
Okay, now let me stop presenting. So that's what we have. I'm going to go in the chat, see what's going on there. And now I'm going to open up. I tell you what, I'm surprised how few people took up the challenge of coming in here with their best description. I think everyone's like, oh, damn it. Oh, which one? What? So I'm going to open this up. I'm going to invite anybody else. Candy, if you'd like to come in. Anybody else who'd like to come in, let me know. I'll pass you something. Cat's Eyes. Hi, Cat's Eyes. And everybody else. For Eyes to See. Focal Shift. Lee Redpath. Welcome. Let me see. Excuse the shout out, but it is nice. I know when I got a hangout, when I got a shout out from, if I get a shout out on Infinite Plane Society or Globebusters or anybody else like that, it's like, oh yeah, cool, and I'm not comparing myself to them, but it's like, it's nice, it makes you feel appreciated. So Dave Hinkle, hey. And David Wallasham, Test Vision. Which of the three horizons do you believe in? Leeds Ruiz or Leeds Ruiz, however you say it. Hey, so I'm Vincent P. Hello. Everybody else, hello. And I'm going to go over to Skype and see what's going on there. In the meantime, I'll jump in and feel free to jump in and just shoot the breeze.
Hey, can I say hello to everybody in the chat? Hello.
That was Zulu One.
Meow to Cat's Eyes.
Why don't you tell everybody what you do? Anybody who's not already familiar with you and what you do. Let people know.
For a living?
Yes.
Oh, I'm an insurance weasel. It's for damaged cars.
And weren't you a fireman?
Yes, I'm a fireman. I'm a fire police officer. I was a deputy. I'm an EMT. I'm a scout leader. A whole bunch of shit. Busy.
So you do know about momentum and things like hose pipes and pressure.
Oh, yeah, you have to worry about, absolutely. You'll send a fireman 30 feet in the air if you're not careful with hose pressure.
Yeah. Hey, have you seen that device somebody invented that basically just puts water through a pump that they fly around over the ocean on a jet of water? Yeah,
the little thing follows you around like a jet ski and sucks it up. It's the pumps to the hose. Yeah, that thing's wicked. Absolutely.
It's so cool.
I think I'd kill myself on it, but it's wicked.
Yeah. Have you seen the hoverboard? The real
what's that?
Electric powered hoverboard. Have you seen it, Brian?
Yeah.
Is that the one wheel?
No, it's a hoverboard. They have to freeze it for it to work right and all that, and they can hover around like in Back to the Future for like 5 minutes or so.
Let me show you. I think you might be.
Cool.
I think
so. It's like that quantum locking thing where they take the hunk of ice and the superconductor or something, and it stays in position. Oh, that is pretty cool.
Oh wait, no, I'm talking about another one. This is going to blow your minds, guys.
I love stuff like that.
Yeah, I can't wait for levitation boot. Okay. Hey, Chris, if I pass you something, can you screen share it?
Of course I can.
Okay, so here it comes.
Hello, Chris. I'm sorry I was rude and never said hello to you.
No worries. Hey, man.
You've got a lot of things going on your computer, Chris. You're coming slightly bursty. Your voice is slightly poppy.
Sorry, I'll try and shut down some browsers.
There you go. That's the link. This is real, guys, by the way. There were several people at first who were saying, oh, no, this is CGI. No, this is real. It's been shown more than one time, many times.
I'll be the judge of that.
Okay. Now, I can't say that it would be mass-produced. I wish they would be. But with the segues, those segues that kids have, I think that's an excellent thing for learning, how to fly one of these things eventually.
Okay. See,
and I don't know if any of you guys have used one of those Segway platforms, not the old, with the handles, just the platforms with the wheels. They are very strange things to use to operate to get the hang of. My niece has one. I've tried it. It's very strange, but I think that's how we're going to learn what it feels like to fly without a big helicopter backpack or a jetpack, Chris, do you have it?
Yeah, I'm garbage on those things. I fell right off it. I was like, I'm going to break my hip. I'm old. I can't do this. But I'd like to see one of those little kids try and keep up with me on an ATV through the woods. I'll tell you that. That I'm good at. I've been doing that a long time.
Okay, where's Chris? Let me present you to everyone. Okay.
And I should say relative for an old guy. Look at that. Get out of here.
Yeah, but that's just a fan, isn't it?
Yep.
But still.
That's all it is.
If it's that maneuverable and manageable,
yeah.
Wow. So he probably figured out a way with fans to generate the same amount of thrust as with the hose pressure.
Yeah, there you go.
And use the same platform. Oh, that's cool.
So here's a funny thing. So that's basically creating a low pressure above them, higher pressure below them to bring them up, right? To quote, defy gravity.
Yeah.
Yet space can't suck the atmosphere out. I don't know.
So they can't use propellers.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And if they can do an individual, they can make a large platform and move other things around.
Yeah.
Cargo, vehicles.
And once they release a free generator, an over unity generator, then these things will go on forever, or until the parts wear out.
That thing is cool.
Yeah. So how cool was that? When I saw that, I was, well, they've also got a hover bike that's really cool. And these things only really work because the place we're on is flat. If it wasn't flat, they wouldn't work. There'd be all kinds of extra things going on that would stop them from working, like Coriolis. You'd take off and the ground would be shifting away from you.
That's funny because, as a kid, you never thought about it. Really, if it's true, it should apply to aircraft as well as your sniper bullets. How can a plane land on a runway if it's moving?
Stop bringing up bullets. Does not affect Coriolis.
I know it doesn't. That's why I said it.
Listen, did you hear deGrasse Tyson explaining about the field goal? I listened to it.
Yeah, he's despicable. He's despicable.
Now, what he's doing is, with that, okay, if you've looked at NLP or any of those verbal manipulation techniques, okay, you see that what he's doing is he's taking an example, he's then embellishing, adding details, little bit of magic, when he says, I sat and I did a quick calculation, that's basically saying, so I did a small incantation, okay, or it was a little bit of magic and figured out that the reason the ball went in, the reason the goal was scored was a Coriolis. And yes, congratulates himself. Okay, imagine if he'd done exactly the same thing, but it was describing a field goal that had been equally missed. Okay, there would have been no way to celebrate like this. There would have been a bunch of people going, the goal missed because of the Coriolis, and would have looked, because a goal being scored is not the same as a goal being missed. Because, for the team that's playing, kicking that ball and watching it, for the team that's losing, they're like, they're probably going to score now, and they're already disheartened. So this is why it was used with a goal being scored and not a goal being missed. Because if it had done it on a goal being missed, the guys would have gone, what? You're saying we missed because of the freaking Coriolis? And some of these football players are in university. Some of them have been right through university, have their degrees and everything. They've gone, wait a second. No, that's bullshit, that.
I would like to put out a challenge.
Yes.
Anybody that says bullets are affected by Coriolis effect, I would love to talk to.
So, challenge right here. Anybody who would like to talk about bullets being affected by Coriolis effect, type X in the comments after this has been broadcast. Type X, we'll get in contact with you and we'll try and get you to join in and discuss your ideas on Coriolis effect on bullet.
And that is one you will not win.
That's it. So, okay, let me see. I need to take a short break, so I'm going to hand it over to you guys, okay?
Do they say that it matters whether it is a larger projectile, i.e. a warhead or a missile, or...
I will take in from largest projectile military has down to the smallest 5.56.
Right.
Guys, I'm going to hand it over to you while I go and make a drink. I'll be straight back. So, shoot the breeze. Chill.
Nice. You go rum and coke?
I don't think I'm turning your drinks very often, so
I was just drinking coffee. I didn't even have any alcohol today. I wanted a beer, but I was too busy. Not busy. I was having fun with my kid. We were out and stuff, so can't drink and drive. So, Brian, you think that'll be a long discussion?
No.
Yeah,
nice.
Interesting. Now, here, I have a question. The larger the mass of the round, right, the projectile, now that is going to be for your distance. Is it affected by your angle of the barrel, or of the projectile? I'm just trying to understand.
Depends on how much explosive you put behind it, with the velocity you get out of it.
Okay, I guess.
But yeah, heavier the mass, still you're going to have. Yeah, everything's a factor except for Coriolis effect. So when it's not.
And I guess what my question was, I was trying to understand the angle because it was funny. I was watching the thing on tanks, one of those top 10 tank things, and they had that German one.
Leopard.
Is that the one that fires five shells? Maybe, and maybe it's not even classified as a tank, but it fires like 5 artillery rounds at different angles, and all 5 rounds hit the target at the same time.
Well, yeah, you can do that, but again, no Coriolis effect.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say. Wouldn't that affect the placement of each round? You know, I mean, I can understand your up and down angle, but now you're going to have to adjust right and left as well. And it didn't look like that at all. It was like boom, 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 and the barrel just moved right down, and you see the target.
Assisted?
No, it was artillery. It was, well, I don't know if that's what you classify it as, but it wasn't rockets.
Well, artillery has rocket assisted. We can put, GPS guidance on an artillery round, and it will adjust. Yeah.
How does it do that? Fins pop out of it or something?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, interesting. Cool. Yeah, that was, what did Antonio say the other night? The Israelis have a torpedo, I think it was, that's faster underwater. Yeah, it's like ludicrous speed underwater compared to like a missile in the air or something like that. Or maybe it was relative to the plane speed.
Maybe.
Because I think missiles go faster than planes, obviously, else you would never hit one.
No, it doesn't matter. I mean, because you got to figure, if you had to take in Coriolis effect, you would have to know exactly what direction you're facing and where on the Earth you are exactly, and do those calculations, which nobody in the military does. Never.
I wonder how bad it would be if you were flying a jet fighter and trying to fire the machine guns and have to take Coriolis effect into it upside down, diving, whatever.
Yeah, nope, doesn't happen. They take barometric pressure, they take air temperature, they take ammunition temperature, they take crosswind, but no Coriolis effect or direction you're shooting.
What about planes flying at very low altitude over the ocean? You know, when the
only effect you would have there would be barometric pressure.
Yeah, no, but what I mean is, if fighter jets were flying at very low altitude over the ocean, it would be incredibly difficult for them to remain at that very low altitude. They'll stay at 20 meters off the ground and stay at 20 meters off the ground, traveling at 700 miles an hour.
Oh, you mean if it was curved?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be really hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Thunderbirds could do it.
Yes.
I watched a Thunderbird crash.
Did they lost one?
There's a message from Jeremy in chat if you want to read it, Antonio.
For me?
For all of us, I think.
Is that, which Jeremy is that?
Gem Panda.
Oh, not interested. So I'm going to pass you something else, Chris. If you would share
I'll
it.
still say hello. Hello, Jeremy. Gem. I didn't even remember your name was
So, Chris, I'm going to pass you another link if that's okay.
Yeah.
You will play this.
Yeah.
This is again gyroscopic energy. Okay. So gyroscopic energy, gyroscopic phenomena. There's more than one interesting element to the gyroscope, which was not invented by Foucault. He named it. It's had lots of different names in different cultures. So let me see if this is plain to everyone. You can play it with the audio if you can, Chris, but if not, it's not that important. We can see what's actually happening. Plain Truth. Shout out to Plain Truth. Wait, you're not displaying to everyone. Let me display it to everyone. Oh, right. Yes. No, you are.
Is that a gyroscope?
Well, it will be once it's spinning.
Good one.
So what they do is they spin it, and they show you can see the Horry Sheet Show, mentioning me in the first Flat Earth Weekly Digest. Awesome. Thank you very much. And yes, we did find interesting things about the sun. In fact, we'll refer to those now after this illustration. So as we saw, the muscular guy, the athlete, couldn't hold that out. That's it, Chris. That's as much. So when a gyroscope is spinning, it seems to have less weight. It doesn't really have less weight, just the weight is distributed differently. It seems to engage with the law of levers once it's spinning. So the law of levers, or if you want to call it Archimedes' law, give me a lever long enough and I will shift the earth. The weight at the end is very heavy to lift, but once it's spinning, it's almost as if it has drawn its way up the handle to the point that it's less difficult to shift, or as if it has actually created created a counterweight somewhere in invisible space, in some other dimension, that allows it to be balanced and held at right angles. I can do a little magic trick. It's not really a magic trick, but it's an awesome parlor trick, which is pick up a chair from the ground, a normal chair, just a normal wooden chair, pick it up from the ground by the corner of one leg that's furthest from the back. So you have the four legs, you've got the back, the legs, the seat, pick it up by here like this, and then let other people try it. And it's and it's just a technique. That's all it is. It's a technique. So, but this gyroscopic phenomenon, just one of these interesting things about gyroscope. So back to the Horry sheet, show. On the sun tracking, in case you didn't know, we found that, and this, Brian, I don't know if you've heard this before, the sun elevation from Cape Town at 33 degrees south was 47.7 degrees. From 50 degrees north was 47 degrees. Now that's interesting, huh? It was a couple of weeks after the equinox, and we estimated that the sun was orbiting at 4 degrees latitude by that time. So it was not over the equator, it was 4 degrees north, I should say. 47.7 versus 47, 33 and 50.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Like I said, we've pulled the data from the military observatory, and it's not matching up at all.
No. So have you contacted time and date and said, guys, you're wrong?
We're finishing it up right now. Right now, I actually have the computer pulling a year's worth of data from 72 locations, and it's being plotted, actually visually plotted on a webpage.
So how much, it's data from where?
From the Navy Military Observatory.
But is it from around the world, or is it from around?
Yeah, no. I can put in almost any position around the world, and it gives me the exact data of every time period that the sun's up, what angle and azimuth it's supposed to be at from that location, including the magnetic declination from that location. So
once you have that, if you could take each line, from the sun to the point, you've got the map. That's once if we call each line a town or a location, great. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yep, hopefully by next weekend.
Nice, brilliant. I will, once I see it, once you show it to me, I will pass it around as quickly as I can to as many people as I can.
We're going to put it on a web page.
You're going to love it, Antonio. It's amazing. He did a really good job with it. You're going to love it.
Cool. Oh man, I'm really looking forward to it.
We'll have the globe Earth on the left side, and we'll have the flat plane on the right side, and using the same data showing exactly what's going on.
Brilliant. Now, what I'm expecting is either a hell of a lot of chaos if you're trying to have them all converge on a point at a time.
They're not on the globe.
No. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I think what's happening with the sun is a phenomenon that manifests itself as a reflection that can be seen, the one reflection, not the one reflective point. One reflection being seen from very different points depending on your position relative to the thing that's causing the reflection. That's what it
appears to be.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Would you dare say it's a roof? It's reflecting off the roof, a dome?
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say, if anything, it would be a membrane-like surface. If we say a reflection requires a surface, then I would say that surface is membrane-like. Okay, and that surface would be the flux point between one wavelength of radiation, let's call that night, and a different wavelength of radiation, let's call that day. And between those two wavelengths, there's what we call twilight. Now, there's the point where that wavelength becomes day, which means it's capable of reflecting what we call the sun, and the shape of it is circular and dome shape, this membrane. I visualize it like a contact lens, and we're inside that contact lens, and that contact lens is not centered. The sun is not in the center of that contact lens. It reflects on the inside, and this contact lens, the shape of it, explains why New Zealand's angle to sunrise between New Zealand here and the sun, it's southeast from New Zealand, and it goes, as this membrane moves across, the reflection goes like this, not on a line that's parallel to the ground, but also rising across the inner surface of this membrane. That's just what I think might be happening.
I'll give a quick idea idea.
Yeah.
Not theory, not just a quick idea. It's almost like, have you ever seen one of those glasses that have all the different little etchings on the side and all that, like diamonds and all that?
Yeah.
And it's almost like the light hits it, and depending on where you're looking at that glass is how the light hits you.
Yes. So if you were looking at the glass and you're looking in this direction, and the relationship between you and the glass is position 1. But as the glass moves across, your position, your relationship to the reflection has moved. Now it's position 2, and it's higher and at a different point.
It's different.
Continuously. There's no instant of
because the importance of this data is, if the sun is, quote, up there in space or whatnot, when Zulu sees it at noon his time, at 10 o'clock in the morning my time, our two angles and everything else should meet at the center point.
Yes.
But they don't. They absolutely, and I don't mean slightly 1 degree off, I mean big gap.
Yes. Oh, man, I am so looking forward to it. This is what I've been trying to do. There's been a hell of a lot of distraction in the last couple of weeks with nonsense.
Yes. Yes.
But this is what I've been working on. But we only have very short data. We only have 50. So you have to work with the data and with an idea of what that data is representing. But if you only have 50 data points, we don't have the entirety of Australia. We don't have anywhere really from the Far East. It's like huge gaps.
I'm going to send this to you real quick. Don't share yet. I'll send it to you on Skype.
Okay, cool. What I was going to do is simultaneous reading, like you've been doing with Zulu this week. And this is for anybody listening who's been waiting from Australia. Apologies, a huge distraction. This week, hopefully you guys will have a good enough day from East, Central and Western Australia that we can do a simultaneous reading. And I am Face, you too. We will communicate. If we can have a simultaneous reading from Australia and Kuwait, then we'll see what's what.
Now,
okay?
One thing I'm going to do, Antonio, with this website is we're going to put in an area for people to put in their data themselves. So not only will we pull the Navy, we'll start, as people go to the site and put in, I see this on this degree and azimuth and everything else, they'll start putting it in and we'll start locking all this stuff. We can determine the difference between the military data and personal data put in. So we'll start actually getting some good tracking. But I sent you the link. Right now, it's only got the 2 points because we're testing. Awesome. But yeah, I've already pulled years worth of data from a bunch of places, but I'm just we are confirming our math is right and everything is right. We don't want to put up something wrong, but you'll see real quick. It's locked to a time right now, but you'll see the two lines don't match up because that's set for 4 o'clock East Coast time and 6 o'clock Mountain time.
Yes. Okay, Brian, have you watched some of my earlier videos?
Yeah, you have a lot, but yes.
With the spaghetti.
Don't remember at the moment, I'll confess.
Okay. Because I have a very similar thing with spaghetti, like where you've got the lines, but it's spaghetti instead. And it was flat earth slam dunk something or other. It's called sun calc, I think. Anyway, I see. And if people can contribute more details and can see how close the data that you have is from the Navy, I think the data from the Navy, seeing as though it's not actually following the globe math, I think it's based on real observations of what's actually going on, because these guys... It
is, because I will say this. The military does use that data to determine where the sun's coming up and everything else for tactical plans and everything else.
Yeah.
Which is why that data doesn't make it line up with the globe. Like I said, hopefully by next weekend, the site will go live and people can put data in and everything else and also see tracking and everything else that we're doing.
See, this is one of the things I have to say right now. I'm a pacifist, okay? I would like to fight if I have to, I would enjoy it, okay? But I'm a pacifist just in general. But people have to understand about the military. Lots of things go to the military. Lots of things come from the military. There's the conspiracy theorists. Some of them will rightly say that wars are started on purpose for blah, blah, blah. But there's also the other side, which is there are warlike mentalities that would just come and take everything, okay? So that's the principle of the military that I would wager everybody who joins for, because because there is this mentality. People will come and say, right, I'm taking this. So those guys, they can't mess around. They're not going to go time and date and look at details. They have to have details that they know are correct, because people get killed as a result of having it wrong. So they have to have it correct. So awesome. I can't believe you've done this. This is going to be so incredibly cool. And it's going to help the flat map. It's going to help put it together very well. And then we'll see. You see the elongation of the south. Like, how's the sun working? If the sun goes around as a unit central, then you have to have this stretching of the south, because that's how light works. If it's a local point in space. But if it isn't a local point in space, then it's going to work as if every shadow comes from the point that's causing the reflection, and that's not the same point that's causing the reflection in a different direction at the same time. Some other point is causing that second shadow.
So once we have these calculations with the sun working right and all that to make sure we are correct, we don't want to make a mistake and put it out there, we will be adding the moon because we have that data. We also found an interesting one project we'll do on the next step will be the tides level, because we have that data too of how high tides are at what time. So when we overlay that with the moon, we'll see what we get. Because you've heard the scientific explanation of the tides, right?
Yes.
What have you heard? Just out of curiosity.
The moon's gravitational pull pulls the water towards the moon, and the water follows this pull happens as the moon goes round as the Earth rotates under the moon. The water is continuously being pulled towards the moon, and it would appear from the Earth as if the tides are moving around the Earth.
Not quite. I actually looked up on some Science Gov, some NASA stuff and all that. Okay, I'll wait till you finish drinking because I want you to spit your stuff out. This is good.
Okay, I have to say, first of all, that you are blowing my mind with what you just showed me. And yeah. So I don't know if I'm going to sleep tonight because I can feel that I'm on a little bit of a high. So, and
people can look this up. This is how they actually say it works. So the moon's pulling the ocean towards the moon, right? But then the question remains, you always have that high tide on the opposite side of the moon too. Mm-hmm. Okay, brace yourself. The moon's gravitational pull, when that happens, actually pulls the Earth towards it and leaves the water behind.
Right. So
that's from a Gov site.
Let me get this straight. I'm going to make a shape in the air, and this is the Earth. And as I go like this, I'm moving the Earth. The moon is over there, okay, in this description. So the moon is pulling the water here, okay, so the water's going like this towards the moon, like that, and also the Earth like this, not quite as much as the water, okay, and this shift here is what causes this other tide on the... How do they get away with saying this? How do they possibly? So it pulls the moon a little bit more than it pulls the Earth, and the other water just kind of lags behind and it's being pulled by the Earth. Wow. Okay. I've got a purple dragon that makes me fried egg sandwiches.
Yep. I'm trying to find it real quick. They've got so many explanations from it just pulling down from the poles down and whatnot. But yeah, it's one of those things, like most things when you read into the science explanations, they don't know. They have some ideas that unfortunately modern education is pushing as facts.
Yes, that's all they are, ideas. That this really is all they are. Now, I don't know. There are people out there who are flat earthers who think they hid the shape of the Earth on purpose in order to bring in all of this extra stuff. My position is they made a mistake. They didn't realize it was a mistake, and they don't know. I genuinely think they don't really know what the sun is or what the moon is or how the tides work. They don't know. They know what they do, especially people like the military, but they don't know how. Not all of those anyway.
Exactly. They don't know, but scientists don't like saying I don't know because they went to college and got paid all this money and everything else. So they can't say I don't know. So they come up with their ideas, and then slowly that gets pushed to become a quote of fact.
The moon pulls the Earth towards it.
Slightly, yeah. It's funny, isn't it? So that's why we're doing this little web project, and we're going to, as data that we can actually find and discover, like the moon, the sun, Polaris, and the tides, and little time, we could probably get most of the stars in there too and actually see what those are like from positions.
Well, I tell you what I can do. I can help with this, and I'd like to, okay? What I can do, whenever you are ready, or whoever else you're working with this, whenever you're ready, I can fire up a hangout, and in the hangout ask however many people can come on to take a reading, and we'll do a simultaneous simultaneous reading or a series of simultaneous readings.
That's fine, but like I said, we're writing this so anybody can go to it at any time and put their data in, and then the computer model, you put your date, the time you did this, and your information, and then the database will pull at that time to get all the different angles and perspectives of anything. We want to keep this running live constantly, so anybody can come in and put data in, and we will separate it from the quote scientific data from the user data.
Right.
Show the
how will you monitor that the data is correct and not globings just trying to skew the
I was going to say that.
That's going to be kind of hard, but just to warn people, we will track IP addresses that put data in.
Nice.
So if we start seeing some bad data we're opening up, yes, to people putting false data in. However, we will compare that, like I said, with the actual military data that we've pulled. So if you're way off, we'll be able to figure it out to an extent.
Yeah, we'll be able to see because we'll see everybody else's data saying this, and there's this one guy that's saying this other direction, saying, okay.
Yes. Hey, Antonio.
Yeah.
Antonio, I wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask you two things. One, I think you should. Well, I guess a statement and a question. One, I think you should still do the live thing where you can get multiple people to collect data and then input it.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a good idea. Mm-hmm. And the other thing I want to ask, which was something I didn't, or at least I noticed for me, when everybody did the solar tracking, did everyone have a hang time at around noon? Like it was weird, how it stopped moving.
Yes. And what I noticed was the shortest hang time was in the south. So in Cape Town, in Argentina, we didn't, this time unfortunately it was cloudy in Argentina, and so it was only intermittent shadow for him.
Okay.
But the same in New Zealand. In New Zealand, it was like, boom, 5 minutes and it's done. In Denver, it was 55 minutes. This hang.
Wow.
And for anybody listening who's not familiar with what we're talking about, we're not saying that the sun just stopped in the sky. We're saying that the sun and the gnomon stopped changing. It didn't continue to. So here's the gnomon, and the sun is casting a shadow, and the sun is doing this across the sky in relationship to a gnomon, okay? And the shadow changes depending on where the sun is, okay? It gets to a point where solar noon, the length of the shadow, so this will be the length of the shadow. First time a cigarette has actually come really handy. So this is the length of the shadow, the distance between the base and this. In fact, it's the distance between the center of the base and the end of the shadow, okay? So this angle, the sun carries on scrolling, so it's still moving, but the shadow is not getting any shorter. It has been growing continuously shorter up to solar noon. So it gets shorter, 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 and then stays at the same length for a period of time, and then starts getting longer, longer, longer. And this short at the same period of time, we're referring to it as a plateau. It doesn't get any closer to the gnomon, to the base of the gnomon. It doesn't get any further away. It stays at that point. Rob Dizzle was the first guy that really had this happen to him. The first guy that mentioned it, because it seemed like his solar noon was continuously changing. It's like solar noon now, no now, actually still now, it's still now. And it was a period of like 20 minutes for him. He's in Florida. But when we did the same thing from Denver, Colorado, there was a 55 minutes. That's almost an hour of the shadow not getting any closer or any further away. This plateau as the sun scrolled and the angle remained the same for 55 minutes.
How does that happen?
Well, with my idea, and I'll say this is just an idea, it's not even really a theory, it's just you have this membrane. So imagine a contact lens, and you've got a point, and the reflection is making its way inside the membrane, okay? At the same time as the reflection is, now this is Denver, okay? The same time as the reflection is making its way like this around the membrane, somewhere else, further to the west, is seeing a reflection at a different point. So if there were, so Hawaii, for instance, when they're having dawn, they're seeing a reflection here at the same time as Denver seeing it here, okay? And so on. And this membrane is not static. This is what makes this kind of convoluted. This membrane is moving. The location is not, but the membrane is moving. So the reflection is moving as the membrane moves. And it looks like there's a point where this hanging is where, if you imagine a center point, a projected center point on the membrane, so north and south, the membrane arrives, is moving, and it gets to a point where this point, which would be the center point, just hangs as the membrane continues to move and then does this. This is the reflection, okay? So the membrane comes, this moves, and then moves, like this. But actually it's moving on the inside. Wow. This is what I'm working with Vincent to try to illustrate with 3D graphics, because hands and words sometimes are not good enough. So this hanging is like the waltzers or the teacups on a fairground ride, where if the cup is not turning, then you just make a simple turn, a simple circle. But when the cup starts turning, you have this acceleration and slowing down of the spin. So that's just a way of expressing what we're seeing. It hasn't anything to do with momentum. This is the thing. So that slowing down and speeding up is momentum. It's angular momentum that's pulling you. So this has nothing to do with momentum. It's just to do with angle of incidence for the reflection. So your angle to the point that's reflecting as the thing is moving around, it just seems to hang at the same height and then start to drop as it moves off. 55 minutes, people. And I've discussed this with Globalings who said, yeah, maybe that data was just taken wrong. Like, no. These are people who've gone out of the way to make sure that the surface is level, that everything is correct. They're not trying to skew. They're trying to arrive at how to develop a map, not a map, a depiction, because we have maps. It's a true depiction of the relationship between the coastlines and the continents of this earth without stretching, without skewing. And we have this 55-minute lull from Denver. And this is the point. As Denver's having this 55-minute lull, places to the east and west are not having a lull at all. To them, it's dropping or rising. It's only the solar noon at Denver that displayed this. And at the same time as this not getting any higher or any lower point is happening, other points are having it either drop or go up simultaneously. So this is why I'm saying to Brian, when you plot it on the flat earth, it will still do this. But you will be able to see, if you take just the one place and look and plot, and then you look at all the places individually, you'll see that they all do the same. All of them. And then you'll be able to see, this is what's going on. That's what's happening.
So the biggest trick is, because we were doing this to try to find out how far the sun is actually from, quote, the earth.
Yeah.
And the big issue is if we can't get a couple points to click together, we can never triangulate to figure out reverse angles to plot out the map.
Yes. So this is why I've been trying.
Which is why we are trying to pull as much data as possible.
You see, if the sun is not, you can only triangulate something that's local in space, that has localized locality, that has existence that's local in space. You can't triangulate, for instance, from 3 different points, the rainbow that those 3 different points might be seeing, or 2 different points might be seeing a rainbow. You can't triangulate where the rainbow is, because that's not how rainbows work. Each is going to have the rainbow absolutely perpendicular to their line of sight, each person. Well, then they're going to point to that point, and those places are not going to converge. They're either going to be parallel, or they're going to have a convergence that's dependent on various different things, and that will not be where the rainbow is itself. It can't be, because it can't be both perpendicular here and perpendicular here at the same time. If it is, they're not triangulating the same rainbow. They're triangulating different facets. So with the sun, we have to accept what the world presents. Subjohn is in the chat, and he was having a problem with the sun rising in the southeast, east-southeast, from New Zealand, Argentina, and South Africa. And it really does rise east-southeast. We can relax and say, right, it's not rising east by southeast because we're on a globe, because we're not on a globe. How do we know? Because gyros don't precess, and because planes don't, and because there's no curvature, and a whole variety of different things. So you can relax, but it is still presenting east-southeast. So we have to work with that. How is it presenting east-southeast? Where is it? So you work with Auckland's data, you see it goes like this. Argentina, you see it does the same. And then you look at the north at the same time and see what it's doing. And you see that it's not doing this. The points in the north and the south are not doing that. So this, what I think the equator and the tropics are, I think it's like, if I can just draw a very crude penis. No. If I can just draw this as a real simple thing. Okay. This is what I think would be when the sun is making a circuit circuit, and this is only a depiction. I'm not saying it reflects in two different membranes, okay?
Is that called a vesica Pisces?
Well, that's kind of what it looks like, yeah? But I would say that when you look at, so you have the south looking at the sun and it does this across the sky. At the same time, you have the north looking back this way, and they're seeing the same thing, but they're seeing this across the sky. So it's following, this is what's going on from their experience, from each point of view.
Right, which is why we're going to expand out past the sun. Once we get the data for the sun, I'm not saying they're going to line up, but once we get all that right and all the math right, we're going to move to the moon. We're going to start putting some stars in there, because we have navigational saying this star should be at this angle, at this point, at this. So we're going to use stuff like that, get it all in, let these wonderful computers do the crunching for us and map it out for us, and we'll see what everything looks like.
Yeah. Well, this is what I think is the journey of the sun across the bubble or the membrane, whatever. From the south, this is the angle of the sun from the north, and this area here, this is just an instant of time, okay? Or a replication, a doubling up of the same data from each, okay? But there's no static. It doesn't stop. And as this phenomenon is going on around the world, this is the place that we call the Tropic of Capricorn, and the place we call the equator, and the Tropic of Cancer, as and when the sun is moving differently. This crossover is what I think is the Tropic of Cancer, Capricorn, and equator.
Well, we'll find out, because the nice thing we'll do with this, we'll have a time lapse and actually show the different positions of what it's showing. So we'll actually be visually able to see
that's cool. If you want Vincent to help with the visuals, he's absolutely stunning at what he does. Vincent is very talented with visual depictions with computer aided imaging.
Well, no, see, we're not editing the image. That's what people need to realize. We're not doing PowerPoint image presentations. The computer is plotting it through the math into the pixels. The computer is actually plotting the image. We won't be editing it. We won't be doing Photoshop or anything like that. It'll be, not for lack of better words, real time, showing what the computer's calculating with the math to present.
Okay, cool.
So nobody can accuse us of we edited it or we depicted it. It is to scale and everything. Presuming the Earth is the radius that they say it is, of course. I have to take that's the only variable I have to take into account that I'm given is the radius of the Earth.
Yeah. Do you know what I think you'll find? That the Arctic Circle is wider, that the land mass in the north is more spread out from each other. So this is sort of Russia and this is the Americas, and the relationship we have between them is kind of like this now. But in the real world, when you plot all the data, it will turn out to be more like this.
We'll find out.
I had a. Oh, sorry.
I am sorry. I'm just celebrating. I'm just saying.
Oh no, I hear you.
So looking forward to it.
I hear you. I was going to say I had a very strange observation the other night. I accidentally pulled an all-nighter and was out on my front porch, and I was having a smoke, and it was about 4:44, 4:45, because I remember I looked at the clock, and it was strange. Where I first saw the light coming up was north. And I walked to my backyard to make sure that I wasn't like bugging out. There was no light at all rising, but it started in the north, glowing and getting brighter, and then the sun popped up almost north. A little. What's between? I'm an idiot. What's between northwest and northeast and east? What's in the middle there? North by northeast. Is that how you say it?
Yes.
It was just north of east, where it popped up, and then rose across.
When you first saw the light before the sun?
Yes, just starting to appear.
In what direction was the light before the sun?
The north.
Dead north?
Well, I guess just a tick east of north.
Right.
And the only reason I know this is because I've been sitting out, even before Flat Earth, I've been sitting on my back porch looking at Polaris and the pattern of the stars and watching all this stuff. And, so I know where my north is relative to my house and everything. So it was very strange that I saw the light, because at first, I was like, oh, that's Middletown, the city. And I'm like, wait a minute, no, it isn't, because you never see it. Even if there's a house on fire, you can't see that. And then I realized there was light in the sky, the sun coming up, but it was so far north. And I walked to the backyard, which I have almost a direct line of sight to east. I could see pretty far out, and there was no light whatsoever in the sky.
And where are you? What's your location on the US?
Orange County, New York, 60 miles north of New York City, Middletown.
Yeah. Yeah, it's because the daytime brings its illumination from the other side of the flight disk, and when it gets to a point that's close enough for you to start to see this change in wavelength, you can see it. And as it carries on, it gets bigger and brighter, and then the sun pops up to your line of sight. So it's like north, northeast, or that direction. But the sun has done, and it will do this around you and around everybody else. No, not everybody else. In the south, it will do this to them. And at some point, it will do this to them, but never that from the south. Which is why you have the midnight sun in the north and no midnight sun in the south.
Yeah. Wow.
Do you know Sergey, the Russian guy?
Yes, I like him. He's cool.
Yeah, he's really cool. He's been looking at all kinds of stuff. He's looked at details of people who moved from the UK to New Zealand. And granted, New Zealand's a different latitude south to UK being north, but there's reports, lots of reports of people just being a bit freaked out at how quickly the sun moves in New Zealand. Between morning, just fast, and then slow, and then fast. And it's like, yeah, a different angle. It's a different point of view. So, and then we have to, well, once we've done this, once Brian has done this, then I suppose I would like to say, here you go. Or Brian, I don't, maybe Brian will really sit there and go, yeah, right, now I'm going to contact some physicists. But what is the sun? What is this radiation? What does it bounce from? What does it reflect on? And if it's reflecting on something, which it is, what's the source or what's the cause of the thing that's manifesting as a reflection? Where does it come from? Does it come from the north? Does it come from above? Does it come from some other point? Does it not come from anywhere? Is it just a series of meshing of different, I don't know. Anyway, right, look, I'm going to see who's in chat. I'm going to give a shout out, and if nobody else is joining, Flat Earth Matter, would you like to join us? That should be interesting. No debating. Okay, no debating, Charles. Just chatting. If you type X,
that'd be cool. I never met him.
He's good. He's Charles. He's okay.
He's an expert in backhanded compliments, and he can compliment you and slightly insult you in the same sentence without you even noticing, in my opinion.
Right. So he's going to join us. Charles, please do not pass this to Jeremy or any of those guys. You're not going to get attacked or assaulted or accused or abused here. So I don't want any of those people whose speciality is doing that kind of gibberish. So check your Skype, please, Charles. You'll have it there in the speed of light to your email. Okay. I'll pass it to your email.
Hello, everyone else in the chat. I can't see it, so I don't know who's out there. Love you guys.
Are you on your phone? Is that why you can't see?
Yeah, I can't. I don't smoke in the house, so I'm in the garage. I wanted to smoke cigarettes while we were talking.
Fair enough. I remember the days you could smoke in restaurants, in bars. They were.
Yeah, sure.
So
I remember when we were waiting for our food and we wanted it to come out, we'd ask my mother to light a cigarette. It was like the strangest thing. As soon as she would light it, our food would come out.
Yeah.
Weird stuff.
I'm back.
Guess who's joining us?
Have to take care of the kids. Yeah.
Ryan, guess who's joining us right now?
Who?
Flat Earth Maths.
Oh.
He's going to. I've said no debate, no, just chat. Just chat. No debating, no accusing, abusing, nothing like that. And by the way, Charles, not to undermine your integrity, but I haven't passed this link to anybody that I'm not 100% confident would not pass it to somebody else. So the only people that have it are people that. So if this link now appears with anybody else, we will know that it was you. So, and like I said, no assault on your integrity. You're muted, Charles.
Hello. Can you folks hear me? Okay.
We hear you fine.
Yes.
You don't have to put your camera on, but you can. You're welcome to.
Yeah, the lights are all out, but I could show you just very briefly. But my camera,
oh, there you go.
What am I trying to say? Can you see me? I'm probably very. Oops.
We see you pretty well.
Okay.
We see you pretty well. Yeah. Okay. There you are.
I'm going to turn off my camera just because bandwidth and whatever. But I hello everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Same here. Hey, what's up? How are you?
Hey, how you folks doing? I'm very much liking. I only heard the last 45 minutes of the chat. But I'm very much liking the idea of systematically collecting data. I mean, that is my reason for being. Like that's the reason for my channel is the systematic collection of data. So I am all for it 100%.
Excellent.
Cool. cool.
Excellent. This is one of the things, you know, you have human error and you have chaos. We live in a world that's not absolutely regimented in every aspect. So when I did the sun tracking, you can't guarantee that everybody's going to come on at you know,
Sure.
it systematically. So, you know, but it helps because it helps people to start to understand what we're doing.
Yes. And the thing that I would emphasize, because there's a lot of talk in the flat Earth debate about observations, but many times these observations are what I would call casual, and I'm not going to discount them. Casual observations are great, but if you focus on careful observations, really meticulous, like being anal retentive, you know, being ridiculously detailed, and sort of obsessive about the details, then you collect really careful data. So, for example, that's why I kept getting on you, Antonio, about the whole solar noon thing, about, you know, using a compass, and it's like the compass is a little too sketchy. You know, if you've got a metal table that's within 3 feet, you know, the compass is gonna, you know. So that's why I was saying, you know, just be really careful with your data collection. Totally anal retentive, and then that data will not lie. You know, that data you can take it to the bank. So,
Well, that's why the last time we did it, we didn't even rely on the compass whatsoever.
Yeah, that's why Brian and I are doing this. I'm sorry. I was just going to tell him that's why Brian and I are doing this and looking at this, because we started with casual observations and was like, hey, that doesn't quite make sense. And, you know, that's kind of why we're going in that direction.
Yeah, because you have to be meticulous. If you're not meticulous, then what are you doing? You know, it's like, I don't know.
Well, that's why, I don't know if you missed it or not, but at the beginning of it, the data we're pulling initially is from the Naval Military Observatory. That's giving us all our data initially.
So Brian, are you using, I didn't hear the details of that, but are you using like the, what do they call it? The almanac, you know, where it's got all the position of the stars and, you know, it's a published almanac for celestial navigation.
The Navy Military Observatory gives you this option where you can put in either your latitude, longitude, or actually a couple town names and whatnot, and they will give you the chart for that day of the altitude, the azimuth, magnetic deviation from that position, everything else for the entire day that's of the sun. So what I did is I got the computer to pull an entire year's worth of data from 27 different locations, and I'm going to expand the locations, and then we're using that data to plot to start with.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think I know what you're talking about, where it's a very crude website. It's like in ASCII, but then, you know, you type in your zip code, and then it'll spit out the altitude and azimuth of, I think, you know, like the sun, moon, and I think of, like, you know, the top 20 stars or something.
Yeah, you can set them all up. So I just got my server to constantly plug them and pull different locations constantly and translate that ASCII into a database.
Yeah. Oh, very good. Yeah, I've done similar things where you start off with an ASCII file and then you try to I guess parse it into a database. Yeah. But you folks in the Hangout, you might be interested. I've invented a tool. Calling it the Cardinal Azimuth tool, and you might be interested. I haven't written up the details yet. You basically take 3 yardsticks and you make 2 of the yardsticks. You're going to meet it at right angles. And I'm sorry, my baby's crying in the other room. I do apologize, Antonio, because you said control the children.
Charles, if you want to go over and make sure that everything's okay, we're not on the clock here.
I'm so sorry, because this is like, you know, 2 for 2.
Take care of the baby, man. It's okay.
But no, he's with my wife. So but he just turned 6 weeks old, and so he's very needy.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. But anyway, the Cardinal Azimuth tool. You take 3 yardsticks. 2 of them you drill a hole at the 18-inch mark. You shoot a screw through, and then you have them at 90 degrees. Then you take the third, and then you have to do some research on your own as to a straight landmark in your area where you have a clear sight of the horizon. You know, whether it's a local playground or whether it's a hilltop that has like a park bench, something that can be either seen on imagery, or maybe you can get a local map where it says, oh, here's this park, and the map is not going to lie because the map is 100 years old. But then what you want to find is a straight line on the map where if you stand in that location, you can see the horizons beautifully. Well, then you measure the angle of that straight line, in degrees. And then that's the third yardstick. You shoot two more screws through your yardstick so that you actually make a right triangle, where two of the sides of the right triangle are going to be north, south, east, and west. And then this third one is going to line up, like, let's say it's a curb, like you have a straight street and there's a curb. So you would literally line that third yardstick up with the curb. Well, you just take this tool, the cardinal azimuth tool, you drop it down there on the ground and you line up that third yardstick. And then now you know where exactly due north is. You know exactly where due east, due west is. And then it just helps you when you're in the field to kind of measurements, if I'm making any sense. I know I'm kind of rambling.
Can you describe,
absolutely.
Can you describe the construction again? I'm making a depiction of it so I can show people. But would you describe it again? You have a yardstick, very 18 centimeters in.
You take 3 yardsticks.
Yeah.
Right.
So
you initially shoot a screw through at the 18-inch mark. So you basically make a T. Those are going to be your right angle. That's going to be your north, south, east, west. Then you take the third yardstick and you have to do a little bit of math and measure the angle of a local landmark, a local straight line, like whether it's a curb line or whether it's the edge of a playing field, or something where you're guaranteed to know in the real world what that azimuth is, whether you're using a local map or whether, heaven forbid, the Google Maps satellite view. But use whatever tools you have at your disposal that you trust, and then you want to get that third yardstick exactly at that angle, so that when you shoot 2 more screws, you now have a very solid right triangle. Very solid right triangle. Then you just literally carry that into the field, drop it down on the ground, so that the third yardstick is aligning with your landmark. And then now you know where exactly due northeast is. So that's why it's called the cardinal azimuth tool. Tool to help you in the field. Because a lot of times people are like, well, I think that's due east.
Charles.
Yes, but I would yes, but I exact center, 18 inches on both yardsticks.
Okay. So in the set, so you've made a cross. You've made a cross.
Yeah, exactly, a T, and then you have this third yardstick, coming along, and then we all know triangles are very stable, in engineering. So then you just shoot 2 more screws, and then you make you sort of lock in the triangle.
So where would
field
So where? So I started again. Where would you lock the triangle?
Yeah,
so northeast.
You'd want
southeast. Yeah. So where would
the third side of the triangle, the hypotenuse of the triangle, to be as far away from the center point as possible. In other words, you want to make the biggest right triangle that you can. In other words, one side of the right triangle will be 18 inches long, if that makes sense. So shoot a screw through the very top or the very side or something, but basically make the biggest right triangle you can, given that T.
Did you say you've got a video about this?
No. I've only written it up in text, and that text is, you guys are the first people to hear this. I haven't actually published that.
Okay, now I'm going to ask a question. When your avatar comes on, I don't know if this happens when, sorry. I was just, when I'm looking here, there's the familiar globe Earth, and underneath it looks like my picture for whatever reason. And I thought you'd taken the globe and put it on top of me. So, but it's not. It's just a glitch on the Hangouts. I was going to applaud you for the humor. Okay, so yes. So now you've got an azimuth that you can absolutely rely on. Yes, Charles? Oh, I think he steps away. Unless it's dropped. Sometimes this happens. Okay, so when we have the data, I can't wait for Charles to come back and ask him his opinion of the 0.7 of a degree difference between Cape Town. Are you back, Charles? This is why I prefer it with camera. It's just so much easier to keep track of what's going on. So Jibby Jedi. Jibby, you're welcome to come, by the way. Oh, hello.
I don't know if it dropped out. Can you hear me okay?
Do you have many things working on your computer? Have you got lots of processors on? Okay. If you need to drop, you drop. Come back if you want. He's just left the message. Yeah, sure. Drop and come back. Absolutely. Okay. Charles is coming back in 1 minute. I was going to say, Jibby, you're welcome to. I did say, Jibby, you're welcome to come on. But if you do, please take it easy.
Jibby Jedi.
Yeah. Actually, I feel really mean having said that. Of course, Jibby would take it easy. It's just there was a debate between Jibby Jedi and actually it was Jibby Jedi and MG42 Pillbox and Flat Earth Math. And I think Flat Earth Math was feeling a little bit overwhelmed because of the machine gun fire type responses.
You need to unhide Charles from the broadcast.
Unhide? Oh yes, showing broadcast. Yeah. Hey, Charles.
Hello. I do apologize. I'm not sure if it was my bandwidth slowing down, but yes. Thank you very much for your patience. Yeah, that hangout with Jibby and Pillbox that did not go as I had anticipated.
So let me ask you, Charles. Did you
Sure.
feel harangued?
Well, the thing is, Jibby and I get along great. He and I have had literally an 8-hour conversation where neither of us interrupted each other once. Okay, 2 hours of that was a debate, and then we just shot the breeze for another 6 hours. He's a solid guy. I have nothing but respect. Some people don't use that type of conversation. Some people are very, like you said, machine gun. Like they'll ask you literally 10 questions in 10 sentences, and then like they're all rhetorical, because if you ask 10 questions in 10 sentences, you're not expecting a response, and then you start to respond, and then you get hit with 10 more questions. That's not how I roll, and that's why I got really, really frustrated, because that's not what Jibby and I had set up. And he said his voice was going out, his throat was sore, so that's why we had that substitution. But I eventually, I kind of rage quit.
Yeah, the reason I ask is I've been there, I don't know how many times, with Reds and Negatorex and a variety of them. And so I'm very familiar with the questions, with the rapid fire questions, the rapid fire interruptions, the rapid fire digressions from questions. So a whole series of questions, and then addition to those. I'm familiar with that, which is why I asked you if you felt harangued.
Yes,
because it's not nice. It's I would urge anybody who would like to debate anything, please go and watch the debates between any of the religious groups or speakers and atheist speakers. Watch those debates, because they are very, very different standpoints, and they're very civil. You have some with humor, some without so much humor, but there's no abusing, there's absolutely no interrupting, and there's countless debates, atheism versus religion, on YouTube. Just watch and see how a debate plays out. You're supposed to be able to hear what the person is saying and digest it, not lose track of what they're saying because somebody has jumped in and interrupted them, So I'm just saying, for anybody, because, people do engage in debates, they enjoy debating flat earth from the globe or the earth side. So consider this. It's not a case of filibustering. There's no point. That's what you want to do, then don't engage in the debate. You're only going to irritate yourself and others. So, Charles, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Did you hear the details of the elevation angle between Cape Town and the Isle of Man? Sorry, the Isle of Wight.
I did not. Sorry.
Okay, well, if I give you just the bare bones description, Cape Town is 33 degrees south. Isle of Wight, is 50 degrees north. So 33 south, 50 north.
Okay.
The sun, when we did the tracking, was orbiting, or the axial tilt, so at 4 degrees north. So not the equator. It had gone past the equator. It was now 4 degrees north. So 37, it works out to 37. You do the math. Right. 33 degrees south versus 50 degrees north. 0.7 difference in sun elevation angle. 0.7 of a degree.
But all right. So presumably the person south was facing north and the person north was facing south.
Yes.
Right. So just at the top of my head, 33 and 50, that's 83 total degrees. So getting close to 90. I'm not going to call it 90, but I mean getting close to 90. So I'm sort of seeing a little symmetry. So if somebody is almost 90 degrees away, if you have two locations almost 90 degrees away, they should see the sun. I don't know, not like 90 degrees different, but like if somebody's facing north, the other's facing south, well, then I could see maybe that you'd get a similar reading. This is all off the top of my head, so I'm going to have to take a more serious look. But the other question I have is, when were these readings taking place? Were they taking place at the local solar noon?
Yes.
Because that's important, so that you have like an apples to apples comparison.
Yes. And it was what we did, because of the problems with the magnetic declination, or various different, maybe environmental factors that could affect the compass. We were going only from the sun's shadow. And what we were doing, we were looking at the shadow getting shorter and shorter to the point that it stops getting shorter. At that point, it goes goes across. We're expecting it to stop getting shorter and pretty much immediately after start growing longer. Okay. What we found was that it would get shorter and shorter, remain at that short length as it scrolled across, and after a period start getting longer and longer. This is a shadow. So when we realized this, we started working from the midway point at which the shadow stopped getting shorter. So we've made a series of marks, and at the point where it started getting longer, we found the midpoint where we're marking the times for every mark, and they were equidistant. They were 3 minutes apart, and that was the midpoint. That was the solar noon, and that's the elevation angle. So that's what we did for both the north and the south. And both of these guys are amateur astronomers, by the way. So they do understand azimuth and angle. So this is what we had. We had 47.7 degrees from Cape Town and 47 degrees from the Isle of Wight, 50 degrees north.
That's fascinating. That because the next question I was going to ask is how are they measuring the angle of elevation? Because that's another story. And I don't know if I invented it, but it's a tool that you can make with a little protractor called a solar clinometer. And I've described that. There's actually a video on that solar clinometer. So the question would be, how did they collect the data? But if you guys say these guys are amateur astronomers, then I don't really have a beef with them.
Yeah.
The data sounds very interesting. I'm trying to think on my feet. I can't really.
Well, I would
do
say
the numbers, but
I would say that if we were to use just straight logic, we would have to say that the relative distance to the sun for those two places would be almost identical distance, with a small discrepancy to the 0.7 of a degree. So that would be the logical way to think about it. If the sun casts its shadow to the north in the same way that it casts its shadow to the south, so no bending to the south or elongating to the north, if it's casting its shadow out ubiquitous.
Yeah, that's a very good point. If the one guy's at 33 and the other guy was at 50, and the sun at that date was only 3 degrees, say, north of the equator, then those numbers are very strange to me. So according to the heliocentric model, those numbers don't make sense. But the thing is, I'm not going to discount anyone's data. So
let me tell you. Apologies. Let me show you on how the data was taken. We had a flat surface that was level, and we had a vertical gnomon, and the vertical gnomon was 5 centimeters long, and the measurement was taken from the point of the center of the gnomon to the end of the shadow. So the biggest problem here would be where, let's call this the shadow, where was the mark placed for the shadow? Was the mark by one placed here, whilst the other one placed the mark here? Was one measuring at the very end of the shadow and the other one within the shadow? But even that makes a very minuscule difference, but it's still an important difference. So they were both, and they've been working together, by the way. This is Cosmic Surfer and the name is just escaping me. I'm going to check to see if he's in the chat. Brian Walsh? No, not Brian Walsh. I forget. Damn, Ian.
Yeah, Cosmic Surfer is a good guy. He and I go toe to toe in the comments frequently, but he's good.
Yes, and let me check. And Ian Smith, I think it is. Let me just check because I feel ignorant, forgetting. But this is the point. They were meticulous on how they measured it, and both of them we've been discussing, making sure that we're all using the same method, not some putting the shadow at the end. Sorry, placing the mark at the end of the shadow and some placing it outside of the shadow, if you understand what I mean.
Yes, I understand exactly. So I forgot engineering training. I didn't become an engineer, but I did 2 years of engineering coursework. And one of the big things was error of measurement.
Yes.
And so whenever you make a measurement, it's always good to say like a plus or minus. So if I'm using, say, a centimeter ruler and the ruler is measured in, obviously millimeters, well, maybe I'm getting it and I look very carefully. I say, well, maybe I'm to a half a millimeter. That's my accuracy. Well, then you go and you do the math, and then you can actually get an over under. You can get a range of values. And so one of the things, and again, I'm not trying to criticize, but I'm just saying off the top of my head, a 5 centimeter gnomon seems very, very short to me.
Yes.
That's extremely short. And so therefore you're over under, 5.1 centimeters, 4.9 centimeters, and then when you measure measure the shadow? Is it plus or minus a millimeter? Do you see how these errors might stack up? So, that's why if you go to, say, SunCalc, they actually have part of their data is like 1 meter long, a 1 meter long gnomen.
Yes.
So that you could say, well, how long is the shadow going to be for a 1 meter long gnomen? But I prefer actually measuring the sun directly with a clinometer.
Yeah. Well, the next time we'll be making it from a 1 meter gnomon. Now, then the objection, and it's a valid objection, will be on how vertical that gnomon is. But yeah, I hear you.
So the best thing I think would be to use a sundial and have a clinometer. And the thing is, you can make a solar clinometer very, very easily. Literally a plastic protractor, some string, maybe a drinking straw. Can make and it can be very accurate. I mean, you can get to within a degree. But then use both, and you kind of see, well, here's what the gnomon says, and here's what the clinometer says. So
yes, and once you've got this clinometer, it's not just good for the sun; it's good for the moon too, and Polaris. Anything in the sky, it will tell you the angle to it. We made one at school, Charles. By the way, I'm going to show Candy in broadcast. Candy. Please make sure you don't kill us with volume on your phone. And so I'm showing you in broadcast. By the way, I'm not being protective by having people not immediately come on. It's because I was on my own when I started this. I set it so that I could have Trailer Park Boys playing whilst I went and made a cup of tea, and it wouldn't be interrupted by people coming in. So that's why I did that. Hey, Candy, do you want to test your mic? Or is that not Candy? I Spy, do you want to test your mic? Oh, no.
It's Candy, I think.
It's Vinny? No, it's Candy. If it was Vinny, it would have, yeah. Okay. So yes, have a look at, Charles discussed this on the second sun tracking we ever did. Protractor, straw, and anything that can hang loose, plumb line, and there you go. You take it, you turn it upside down, and you've got your elevation angle. It's really simple. It's like a really simple, my words escape. What's that thing? Astrolabe. No, not astrolabe.
Planisphere?
Yes.
Yeah, well, the astrolabe and the planisphere, part of them was designed as a clinometer. So if you ever look at them, there's always a loop, and you're supposed to actually hang the thing from the loop.
Yes.
And then it hangs straight down, and then you can do a sighting. It's quite complicated. And then the problem was they couldn't use it very well on ships because the ships were rocking and rolling. So then they had to invent a marine version of, I guess, or a naval, naval planisphere, or a naval, what's the other word? Yeah. But what was I going to say? If you make a clinometer with just a regular plastic protractor, you can actually mount it on a tripod, and so use the tilt head of the tripod and have a nice long plumb bob, and then you can actually get a really, really good reading. But what I would say is, don't flip the thing upside down and take your reading. Take your reading right directly from the protractor, and then subtract it from 90, because what's going to happen? Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, so what I was saying is, as you've got it, so you've got the angle, it's like this is what's happening here. You have the protractor, you've got the plumb line dropping here. What I was saying to people is, so that they don't lose that plumb line by going like this and looking, and now the plumb line's changed, I was saying you can trap it and then look.
Yes. Or the best yet is to not even trap it, just a straight look, just look. Like,
so if you've got it fixed,
eliminate the middle.
Yeah. I love all these things, the angle to Polaris. I think we're going to find something with Polaris too, Brian, I really think we're going to find something very similar with Polaris.
Should. We'll see.
We'll see. So Charles, when the data comes in, if the data comes in and it says the globe is wrong, are you going to verify, double check, make ultra sure? And if the globe is wrong from the data meticulously collected, will you then say the globe is wrong?
That's an excellent question. I would have.
Remember, it's predicated on the word if.
Yeah, if
that's the case.
The thing, I'm all about meticulously collecting data, and so I would have to be a doubting Thomas, and I would be like, well, I'd really have to try to duplicate the experiment myself. I have a very strong confidence that the data will show will reflect the globe model.
Oh, what happened? You've muted.
I'm so sorry. So sorry.
You're very confident that the data will reflect the model, the globe globe?
I'm very confident. The reason why is because my feeling about the globe is that it's been verified 1,000 ways from Sunday. It's not just looking for curvature over a 10-mile laser shooting across a lake. Like that's not how they figured it out. It's been 1,000 different ways that it's been verified. And so that's why I've got great confidence in the measurements.
I can give you a little bit of a philosophical tool for maybe accommodating the data, perhaps not saying globe, okay? And it would be this, and I'm making this specifically for you to relate to. Let's say you have somebody saying, look, 10 is 8 plus 2, and you have somebody else saying, no, 10 is 5 plus 5, and one of those is a flat earther, and the other is the globe believer. It's still 10, the result is still 10, and it all depends on how you've established that 10. So Polaris is there, and the flat earther establishes through this process, and the globe believer establishes through the other process. It's still there. It's still 10.
I get you. And if you take a look at the old books, like I've got probably more flat Earth books on my bookshelf than most of the people in this hangout. I've got right here, just at my hand, I've got Zetetic Cosmogony. Have you ever even heard of Zetetic Cosmogony?
Yeah.
By Winship. Yeah. I have Zetetic Astronomy by Robotham.
Cosmology is the one that describes the stars being seen through the moon, isn't it? One of the things that it says.
I think it's actually mentioned in Zetetic Astronomy as well. But I mean, my kids like to destroy my bookshelf, so I've got books all over the floor. But because I've got two five-year-old boys, and they're just like El Destructo. But I also have The Greatest Lie Ever Told by the lawyer. What's his name?
Robotham or
no, the new book, the one that was published just a few years ago. The Greatest Lie Ever Told. Earth, how the Earth is not a globe. Oh man, I'm having a senior moment here. But anyway, so the point that I'm trying to make is that if you take a look at the analyses in these books, they make very good points, and they say, well, if you shoot an azimuth, or if you shoot an angle of elevation to the sun, it could work on a globe, and it could also work on a flat Earth, and it's like that's a very good point. If you do it at only one location. So, for example, 45 degrees north latitude, you shoot an angle of elevation to the sun on the equinox, you're going to find the sun to be 45 degrees above the horizon. Well, 45 degrees north latitude is approximately 3,200 miles from the equator. So therefore, the sun is 32 miles above a flat Earth, 3,200 miles above a flat Earth. You can make a little, 45, 45, 40, 45, 45, 90 right triangle. So like you could do the math both ways, but here's the problem. If you add a third observer and a fourth, that's when the math starts to break down. That's when, it works just as well on a flat Earth. Well, that's where it doesn't work just as well on a flat Earth, because the lines no longer triangulate above a flat plane. If that makes sense.
This is where Brian comes in.
That's why I'm adding at least 27 points.
Yeah, 27 points is fantastic. I'm very intrigued.
Charles, what you said makes absolute sense, and everybody, I hope, understood that. Okay, 45 degrees north equinox and 45 degrees elevation. So,
real quick, there's one problem with that, with the globe. And I'm not saying globe, because you got to remember, on the globe, you got to calculate the curvature to add into the angle that you're looking at too. I'm just saying it's not a straight triangle thing.
Well, Brian, the measurement needs to be made obviously at solar noon on the equinox. Like that's where that 45 comes in. But of course, you could do it any day of the year as long as you are collecting. Actually, the best time to do it is at solar noon at everybody's location. Oh, I just had a thought, Antonio. Yeah. Have you guys considered finding solar noon not by the pattern of shadows, but by literally sunrise time versus sunset time?
So this is where it gets really, when you want a meticulous reading, this is where it gets really, really convoluted. In order for it to be actually meticulous, you'd have to be on a southern or northern coastline, so you don't have mountains obscuring your sunrise and sunset. Set the time, so start your chronograph, or actually write down the time of the sunrise So the first part you see the sun, if we want to be really meticulous, the first glimmer of light, boom, that time, okay? Wait the whole day and then do the same as the sun is going down. The last glimmer of time, count those hours and then come to the midway point between those two, okay? So when you say meticulous, it's like, oh, okay, was that the very first glimmer of the sun? Did you really wait for the very last glimmer of the sun as it was setting? So you end up really establishing north with that. So we could do that in order to establish north. So
you would establish north, like if you looked at the pattern of shadows at your calculated solar noon. Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. But what do you guys think about using, like, take your local newspaper? Because, fishermen, they always care about sunrise and sunset and, when the fish are biting and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So, take forget like Google, forget, the sun calc or whatever. What if you were to go to a local source and then say, here's the published time of sunrise and sunset for my location, and then just use those like tomorrow's newspaper. Tomorrow's newspaper says sunrise and sunset are going to be at these two times. I do the math. I find solar noon to be at 12:57 in the afternoon, and then I go out and I make my reading at 12:57. What do you guys think about that? Or is it just not to be trusted, as opposed to trying to find sunrise and sunset on your own, which I totally agree. That's more fudge factor.
Yeah, it's not to be trusted, because just 2 minutes on this side, 2 minutes on that side, 15 minutes off here, 5 minutes off there, which is what we did have. So when we had these discrepancies, this is when people said, you see, you're going from the compass. Like, okay, so we won't go from the compass. We'll go from geographic north, so the midway point of the shadow, and still we have discrepancies. Not quite as many, not the same level of discrepancies, but still discrepancies, still not the same reading as time and date, which would be the same as your local newspaper because it has to concord. So it's just taking the newspaper reading would be equivalent to looking at time and date and determining when it was going to be then. Now, this is what happened in Australia. So in Australia, the person goes out 20 minutes, half an hour before their solar noon is supposed to be, according to time and date. So they go out, they're very excited. It's a 13-year-old lad and everything great. And we're waiting and chatting and other readings and chatting. And despite him having come, and he starts marking, despite him having come out half an hour before his supposed solar noon, he had already missed it. So as he's waiting, the shadow is only getting longer.
I remember that. That was such an anticlimax. And
poor lad,
Such a shame.
And this is half an hour, it's not half an hour. He came out half an hour before it was due to happen. We can't say when it actually did happen. It could have happened exactly half an hour before, or it could have happened 45 minutes, an hour. We don't know. And this was going from time and date. I don't know if the guy's in the chat now, but maybe he also went from other local sources. But this is what happened. So we really can't rely on external authorities or governing bodies or experts. We can't. We have to work with the real world, and we are really working with the real world. So despite it being inconvenient for the sun to be east-southeast from New Zealand and South Africa and Argentina, we are working with that. We're working with the real world. We're not pretending that that's not true. And what you said earlier about the 45 degrees north, so you have somewhere 45 degrees north, equinox, angle of elevation to the sun at solar noon. But this is the thing, when we had somebody doing the same thing at 50 degrees north, so it didn't work. Well,
but you weren't doing it on the equinox. So, but you should have been 3 degrees off. You should have been 3 degrees from his latitude. Yeah, if it was solar noon.
So he's at 50 degrees north. So he's at 50 degrees north. If we'd done it on the equinox, the sun should have been 50 degrees elevation. It was 4 degrees off, so it should have been 54 degrees or whatever the actual breakdown is. Should have been 50 plus degrees elevation for somebody 50.
If it was in the summertime, if it was in the northern hemisphere's summer, it would be, you would add, because the sun was what, 4 degrees north of the equator, headed towards the Tropic of Cancer. Yeah. Well, here's what I would say about the whole data gathering and then like not trusting these sources. What would you think about recording for, just being anal retentive, looking up your local newspaper, saying the newspaper says this, time time and date says this, SunCalc says this, and then I went out in the real world and I calculated this. That way the data is all there on one sheet of paper, and then whether you trust it or not, right? It's there on paper, and so you can go back and you're like, well, it looks like time and date was dead wrong, or they were an hour off, or whatever. I suspect that guy from, you said it was from Australia, who missed the solar noon. It sounds like he might have missed it by like an hour, by maybe exactly an hour. So it might have been a time zone thing. I mean, time is very complicated the way we record it.
Yes, it is. It's very convoluted. There are people out there, I can say this, what you're saying, there are people out there who are doing exactly what you're saying, apart from the days when there's too overcast, who are going out and every day comparing every day, because there are, let's not call them anal retentive, let's call them meticulous, conscientious. There are conscientious people out there who will be making this, keeping a note. In fact, I know one of them, and they're keeping a note. How far off time and dates, how far off various different things, or how close to, because we have to work with the real world. If something is spot on what time and date said, we have to accept that. We can't pretend that it isn't. We have to, we're going by the real world. And if in the real world we have the sun at this angle at this time, and in the real world we have a website called Time and Date saying the same thing, we have to accept that. We can't pretend that that's not true.
That's a very good point. It's interesting that somebody would be going out. I mean, that's fantastic. Somebody's going out day after day, recording this thing. And this is just a random thought, so brace yourself for a change of subject. If you're doing a hangout, a live hangout where you're having people, phone in or Skype in or whatever, what would be great is if the person hosting the hangout just regularly says what the UTC time is, or say, it's now in London, the time is now, and here's the date. Like literally almost like a radio broadcast, how they always do it, like at least every 15 minutes, they say what the time, what the date is, because that way people go on YouTube, they watch your hangout a month later, and they could say, hey, it was this time, it was this date in London, and now I can compare what this guy in Australia is saying. Does that make sense?
That's a really good idea. Charles, thank you very much for that. I do. Yes. What I was doing when I was making when the readings were coming in, I was announcing what time it was here when the reading was coming in. But it's a lot easier if we say it's now 1 o'clock in the afternoon, UTC +1, or UTC, whatever time of the year we're saying it. It's now 2 o'clock. It's now 3 o'clock. Yes. And it makes it a lot easier for people to keep up with it, especially the people who are live. They're going, okay, it's now 3 o'clock there. It's 8 o'clock here. Yes, that's okay. And continuously doing this. And then in posterity, yeah, awesome. Good idea.
Right. And then if you have a standard of, it's almost like a standard of data collection where the people who are going to be contributing, you just, whether it's an email or a description or something that goes out before the hangout, say, hey, when you call in, just tell us, what the city is or what your location is. Tell us what your local time is, and then so obviously the guy who's running the hangout, presumably in London or somewhere, so like everybody, oh, it's this time in London. Oh, and then this guy's calling in and it's, XYZ local time. And, just so everybody's on the same sheet of music. And then, and what you make is the data becomes really, really rigorous.
Yes.
And it could be sliced and diced. Somebody could literally play the hangout later and just take notes and record all the data later. And then, slice and dice it. And that's really where the magic happens.
I'm taking all of this on board, Charles. I genuinely mean this. It's pertinent. It's much better. This is, as far as I know, there hasn't been a group of people who have done this at least publicly. Obviously, the Navy guys have done this, but not publicly. Maybe they've later put it on a website or whatnot, but we're doing it publicly. So it helps as we do this, it helps. And the ideas that you're bringing, it's like, yep, that works. Yep, that's handy. That's important. That's important. Also, one of the things I'm going to stipulate, like go overboard stipulating, is the size, the length of the gnomon, or the height of the gnomon. And then to be absolutely meticulous, it's a lot easier to place a mark on the end of a shadow that's quite wide, have it tapered, make sure nobody falls over like a javelin, sticking out of the ground. But have the gnomon, a meter high, will have the shadows. And when we measure the length of the shadow, have the length of the shadow measured from the center of where the gnomon stands. So from the center, not from the edge of it, not from the edge of the gnomon. So hopefully everybody will have a broom handle, and we'll all use a broom handle of the same dimension. And we won't measure from the outside of the broom handle, but from the actual center where the broom handle is, to be absolutely meticulous about the angle. So yeah, time.
Hey, Antonio?
Yes.
Would it be possible if maybe you could draw up something and that way everyone can have similar specs on what to build on something like that?
Yes, beforehand.
I mean, I'm sure you would. I just
this one of the guys who joined us, called George, is in Serbia. He had a genius way of building himself a platform that would be absolutely level, and it was with butterfly screws. So you can move it independently. Okay, make sure it's absolutely level. Now with this, that platform would have to be at least a meter, from the point that the gnomon is. So that's going to be a little bit inconvenient. We're going to have to develop a way of making sure that the gnomon is absolutely vertical. So one of the things that Sebastian, who's in Argentina, said was one way to make sure is instead of having a gnomon, have a plumb line. Just have a knot on the plumb line and measure where the knot is, Now, so this would require a plumb line somewhere where it's not very, like an actual builder's plumb line, which is weighted, and the wind would take a lot of wind to make it move. So that's another way with an actual plumb line. But now we're getting really kind of complicated, and it's the more complicated, the less likely people are to engage because really the complications. Yeah.
Can I jump in? One thought about using a gnomon is actually using a carpenter's level, and I don't know what there is no standard length, but they do make carpenter's level that are at least 2-3 feet long. And the thing about when you look at the shadow, if you draw sort of a little cross section of what the top of the carpenter's level is, will be a rectangle, and then you see it cast the shadow. You could literally draw the rectangle on the shadow, right? And they just measure to the middle of that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Not only that, but with a carpenter's level and a right angle, you can actually fix it. In fact, get 2 right angles and just and clamp them together. Make sure that it's level. It's a level. It's going to be level, because otherwise you're going to see the bubble. So, you're going to see the bubble off center for the very.
Another thought is that you permit flexibility on the part of your viewers or your participants. I mean, you don't want to lock everybody in, and then somebody's like, "Well, screw it, I don't have a meter stick, so I'm just not going to call in." Well, so allow people their own method, but then have that be part of the hangout. Say, tell us your method. Oh, I used a 1 meter long meter stick and I measured the length of the shadow, or I used a solar clinometer. I mean, like, that's my favorite, the solar clinometer, because you get to be within a half degree with a clinometer, and there's no, like, I call the gnomon like the middleman, because the surface has to be flat, the gnomon has to be perfectly plumb, how big is it, what's the shadow, blah, blah, blah. But the solar clinometer, with a nice thread and a nice plumb bob, you can get to within a half degree if you have that thing, like, say, fixed to a tripod. But permit flexibility is what I'm saying. Permit flexibility by your participant.
Well, I'm going to make yes, absolutely. I'm going to make a suggestion. If you don't want to go and purchase a carpenter's level, then you can use a yardstick, like Charles just said. Then you can make a plumb line. Okay, better if you buy one, because cool thing to hand, and hang it from the top with a gap so that the plumb is not actually touching the wood, and then we can see that it's level. Okay, that it's vertical and it's level, and you can show with the camera that as you're doing the reading. What else did he say? I would be ideally would be using the clinometer, as you're saying, but because we have so many people who would like to destroy anything that we're doing, they would simply say, we don't believe all of these readings that don't match time and date or whatever. We don't believe them. The person did it wrong. That's what they would say. The person did it wrong. They took the reading wrong. They weren't looking at the sun. We have no evidence that they were actually.
So here's the thing, Antonio. Haters gonna hate. Okay, it's as simple as that. Haters gonna hate. And the thing is, if you in your own house, if you make it meticulous, the haters are gonna hate. No matter what. And the data will be messy. That's the thing. You're never gonna get perfect data. But that's why if you make it transparent, if you make the data collection transparent, one guy uses a solar clinometer that he's holding in his hand. Another guy uses a gnomon that's a carpenter's level. Another guy is like jamming a stick in the ground. But make that data collection transparent, like the person describes what they're doing. That's when you really get some really great data. And you are going to have fuzziness to the data. But that's all part of the fun of it.
There's something. Sorry, Brian. There is something that Mike pointed out, and it's so good because it's a combination of the two. It includes a clinometer, which is to have a gnomon, or actually it doesn't even have to be a gnomon. It could be a brick, okay, whatever it is. And instead of using the shadow to determine the length, you use a pipe, and you point the pipe at the sun. And as you're looking at on the surface, you're going to see that the pipe is properly aligned, because all you're going to have is a ring. As you're looking down, you're going to have a ring, even though it's a pipe. If it's off, then it's not a ring. It's going to be a shape that is not a ring. And that's your elevation angle. That's where you place your mark. You know that that's absolutely the sun at this point. The shadow is basically doing the same as your eye.
What I was going to say is to double check our data. That's why we're pulling all the quote scientific data information to compare it to.
Yeah. So now what's going to happen if we take readings? If you take a reading yourself, Brian, and you look at the reading for your location from the Navy, and the reading from the Navy is different to yours, then it's going to be like, oh, God.
Then I do that thing about 100 times to make sure it stays off.
Well, if I'm not mistaken,
I'm meticulous.
Brian, isn't Brian wearing an army hat so that he'd have to say the gosh darn Navy?
Yes,
it's the Navy again.
Yes,
yeah, but I am a Navy.
I was in the Marines.
Always Department of the Navy.
So we're sister service. Actually, a lot of people don't realize the United States Marine Corps is literally in the Department of the Navy. So we are actually a subset of the Department of the Navy, although we are a sister service to the actual U.S. Navy. But it's all good. We like to rib each other.
Yeah,
that's why you're the boys' department.
I read a lot of Jack Reacher, a lot of Lee Child. I don't know if either of you have read. Have you read any Lee Child?
No, but I know that the big controversy with casting Tom Cruise as Jack Reacher. But I've only seen the movie. I haven't read the books, but I hear they're very, very good.
They are very good. And for anybody who doesn't know, Jack Reacher, this character, plays a retired military police officer, a major. And so there's lots of descriptions, and it's good. It was in the army, but it covers all kinds of stuff, and obviously policing each, the sailors, the soldiers, whomever. So yeah, I just thought you guys would enjoy. I think you would enjoy reading, because it might remind you of things, Charles.
The interesting thing about you were saying about that pipe is if you use a straw on your solar clinometer, so literally you take a plastic protractor and then you tape a straw to it, then you actually see the circle, you see the ring. If you have a backstop, but that's just one. There's many alternatives to the clinometer.
I'm thinking of a device, a simply built device that's a combination of your clinometer, but instead of it being something that hangs from the center, it's a rigid thing where you can move the protractor. So you can angle the protractor with the straw, and then everybody can see the straw. Hey, there's a baby. Everybody can see the straw shadow and agree that was the point. So
I'm gonna. I don't know if you guys can see little baby.
Yes,
but he was the one doing all the crying next door.
He looks happy now. What's he called?
His name is Mercury.
Mercury.
Awesome.
Charles, by the way, Charles, you know that once you see and you go, oh my goodness, it really is flat, all of the names will still apply. All the names will still apply.
Yeah, absolutely. There are lights in the sky, but
Hey, I just noticed something just then when you brought your baby up to your cheek. When he made contact with your cheek, he gave his expression was of happiness. It was a lovely. He did it again then, and the expression of happiness is really nice to see.
Well, thank you very much. I'm gonna turn off my camera now. The interesting thing is babies, they can't really smile until they're at least like 2 months old. So he's given us a couple smiles, but I think they're random.
Yeah. Sometimes it's wind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it's get ready to change my nappy in a few minutes. Yes.
So, but yeah, it's all good. The thing is, people get on me all the time about like how I'm brainwashed and how I'm paid for by NASA and blah blah blah, and how I'm in love with the globe because that's what I was trained. But they don't realize that that I try to use my ingenuity and come up with either experiments or instrumentation or tools that you can use in the field to genuinely measure this stuff, and the thing is, I was trained with the globe, right? I was trained with the globe, and I had no firsthand knowledge of the globe until I started getting out there in the field and started making measurements. But then, here's my bias, my measurements just happen to align with the globe. So you could say maybe I'm biased, but I've been searching, I've been measuring the stuff myself, and I haven't found any contradiction yet.
This is why I said before, you've gone out and you've confirmed that 10 really is 8 plus 2. And we are looking at the same thing and we're saying, no, 10 is 5 plus 5. It's because of the mathematics. The mathematics of a circle is the mathematics of a circle is the mathematics of a circle. And that's what the compass is, the azimuth, that's what we're working with. I don't think that the guys that developed the heliocentric theory were either stupid or easily duped. I think they really accepted what they were looking at from a globe, and it displays like this. And if you read King's Dethroned, I don't know if that's one of the ones you've got, you see the problem right at the beginning, and later all of the other guys just didn't redress that problem. And it's sad, but let's not enter into the debate right now. But yes, you say 8 plus 2 is 10. I say 5 plus 5 is 10, and both of them are true. Yes, that's right. Now, if we put mathematics to the side and we look at other things, then if you look at things that don't actually require mathematics, like for instance, a gyroscope spinning, then we have a different situation. But like I said, let's not enter into the debate now. By the way, people, Charles and I will be debating. What is it today? It's Sunday. Is it Sunday? What day is it? Yes, Sunday. Not next week, the week after, on Saturday. Is that right, Charles?
Well, we had talked about having it be a month away. We had not nailed down an exact date. I don't have my calendar with me. In fact, my phone, the battery died. But you and I can Skype, and so let's not advertise the date just yet. But we need to lock it down. I need to look at what my engagements. But I'd be happy to have it then. I just don't want to lock it down just now. I need to look at look at the calendar.
Absolutely. I won't be scribing it in stone, and I will. I do think it's a good idea. I will give you my 5 points, and you'll give me your 5 points, and then we can work on it and have an actual debate like the type I described before between atheists and non-atheists.
So Antonio, and I do appreciate that. One of the things that we had talked about with after our first debate, we had sort of talked about maybe having a second, which never came to pass. But one of the ideas that we had talked about was that I say the 5 things that sort of disprove flat, and I give them to you a week before, and then you research them, and then you a week before you give me the 5 things that disprove the globe. That was just a lark. I mean, that was one possible format. But if you wanted to have it be more of a straight, where you are going to defend, or you're going to say why it's flat, and I'm going to say why it's globe, then that's fine as well. That's more of a traditional debate, I'm open for anything.
So instead of disclosing what points we want to cover, we do it on the hop.
Oh no, we could disclose beforehand, but I think it's more fun if it's if it's in the moment. But no, I mean, if you and I, like gentlemen, I'm going to give you my 5 points, you're going to give me your 5 points, then that would be great, because then I could then research, so I don't have to do the back of the envelope calculations while you're talking, which is what I was doing, during when you were talking about the angle of elevation. So no, that would be a gentleman's agreement, that you and I will give each other's points, and that way the opposition will be properly prepared. So I actually like that idea a lot.
Yes, me too.
Let's do that. Let's do that.
So do you want to have it where your position is pro-globe and mine is pro-flat? Or do you want it to be where your position is anti-flat and mine is anti-globe?
Or why don't we just say it's open? I could have, 3 points for the globe and 2 points against flat, or, just whatever works. But I will give you my 5 points that I will present, and that you could then research a proper rebuttal. And then we'll nail the date down over the next couple of days.
Awesome. I'm really looking forward to it.
So I think that would be a good stopping point here. I'm going to go help my wife with our little baby. And it's always a pleasure, Antonio. And the other gentleman in the chat, I'm sorry I didn't really talk to you very much, but you guys are very kind. I always appreciate the civil debate.
Thank you, John.
Absolutely. Have to maintain that. It was very nice to meet you. And again, congratulations on the little one.
Okay. Thank you very much, all. I'm hanging up now. out. Thanks for hosting, Antonio. Always appreciate it.
And
Bye-bye.
happy birthday. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
All right, bye. So there you go. This is how you can have a dialogue with somebody who has an opposing worldview without getting into abuse. And I welcome it. I think is great. In fact, you have a better time talking with somebody who doesn't share all of the same ideas that you do. You know, Brian, before, no, planes don't use the gyroscopes. Oh, okay. Now we can discuss this. You know, it's just you learn more from the world. If you're just this echo chamber thing that I don't like that term because it's so demeaning. But it's important to have differences. Differences are important. They should be celebrated. They shouldn't be fought. You should be exactly like me. No.
Hey, Antonio.
Yes.
I just wanted to say you're 100% right, because, I mean, even if he is opposing, he was helping with techniques, ideas to be more accurate. You know, I mean, that was beautiful. That was good. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. I respect him because he's not abusive, because he's the only one that is not abusive.
If you compare him to somebody like Red's Rhetoric, they are on different pages altogether.
Well, the thing is, Charles is happy in himself, is confident, so he doesn't have to rest on an inflated ego. But Red's is a different thing. He's much younger too, so it's so much of the ego that influences his speech. You know, that's kind of what it comes down to. I've sent Jibby Jedi a link in case he wants to join.
He's also young, isn't he? Red's Rhetoric?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he's at least 14.
Gotcha. 14. Gotcha.
Yeah, so JP, you have a link if you'd like to come and join us. I'm going to go and make a tea. In fact, I might leave you for about 10 minutes, guys. I don't know if you want to hang out. If Chris is not going to hold the fort and entertain everybody, maybe do some tap dancing, then I'm going to put the Trailer Park Boys on whilst I go and get some coffee.
Jimbo's asking for a link.
Sure. Jimbo, it's in the Sheldon Cooper chat, the link. Let me share it again, just so it doesn't have to trace back. Okay. So, Wanda O'Reilly, hello. Johnny, hello. Flatten Off, hello. Matthias Paschini, hello. You want to come on the panel? All we need is somewhere to send you a link. So listen, my name, Antonio Subirats, write the word arts. I tell you what, I'll type it in the chat, okay? There you go. Send an email there, and I will send to that email the link. Please don't share it with anyone. If you do, you won't be coming back, you know? So, yeah, so there you go. Cat Clark, hey, have I dropped? I don't like it when it's all silent. Are you guys all muted? You are. You're all muted. Right, Chris, I'm playing Trailer Park Boys.
Okay.
I am.
I always meet. It's because I've got fans. You must wind people up.
No, I hear the fans. I hear the fans, but they're not so loud that they're distracting or disturbing, and they don't pull over the mic to you.
Okay, I'll be more honest. Sometimes I sigh.
You don't have to be that honest.
Sometimes I sigh, and sometimes little gestures slip out, and it's safer if I'm muted.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying.
I thought you were going to say the other thing. That sad Antonio must be that used to me being loud. What's sad? I spy. I just read nasalize, and it's nasalize. Of course, I spy.
It's Candy. I was wondering where she went.
Yeah, Candy. Why are you not coming back? What's going on? Yeah, Carleen McLean. Yeah, good guy. And everybody else out there. Thanks for hanging out. And if any of you guys have kept up with Unearth the Drama and all of that stuff, I'm thinking, do you know what? Let people. That's what I'm saying. Psst, no more of that. No more distraction. Oh, Larry Sieben says that Candy has dropped so she can be out there picking on him. Well, you deserve picking on.
Larry.
Yeah, I hear MVP. I hear. You know, that's what I said. Is psst, let people figure things out for themselves from now on. You know, there's only so much you can do to bring attention to something. Psst, from now on, the fullness of time will say what's what. Mr. Applewhite, hello. Matt Trotter SS. Cool. Nikki Love. It's only
Antonio.
Watch my vid on the other account. Okay, Nikki Love. Sorry, 1 second. I'm just copying something. Yes.
I'm gonna have to call tonight. I'll
Okay.
catch you all tomorrow.
Thanks for joining, dude. It's been
Y'all have a good one.
yeah, it's been great. Thank you.
Always. All right, y'all take it easy.
See you later.
Bye.
Good night, Brian. Take it easy.
I'm so, like I said, I am so looking forward to see what the results of his work are.
The beta looks cool, right?
Yes, I'm really looking forward to the results.
Yeah, it's gonna look wicked.
Yeah. Can you imagine if it just is like, there you go. It's like, I don't have to do any drawing. Thank you very much. Oh, that would be so good. But I think if it's based on latitude and longitude, then there's going to be errors based on latitude and longitude, because I don't think 50 degrees north is the equivalent distance to 50 degrees south, and so on and so forth. So we have James has just joined. You're muted, by the way.
Well, hello, everybody.
How are you doing?
Not too bad. I set up for some printing. Hello. So I'm going to start. Well, I won't be doing everything flat earth, of course, but I'm certainly going to print some flat earth t-shirts. I did one today there. I just pulled something off the web and put it on a shirt.
Jimbo, did you say that you set up some printing? Let me display it to everyone.
Ain't got much light here, but basically just silk screen t-shirts.
So you're making these. You've got some silk screens. You're doing this by hand.
All by hand. Yeah.
Oh, that's excellent. Can I see that T-shirt again?
I did front and back on it. It's going to be hard to see the back.
Wait. Can you? Okay. Can you just wait there? Can you turn your back to us again and let me see?
Okay.
It's easier on your back. It's easier. Okay. Wait. Please just wait there a second. That is very cool.
But I'm going to do a bunch of stuff, because with these things, when you got like your vacuum bed and stuff, I've got a vacuum bed, but I'm going to get a hand vacuum for it and stuff because I don't like a lot of noise. So I got a lamp for exposure and stuff, and I actually prefer to expose them outside in the sunlight because they expose faster and stuff. But, I'll do it mostly indoors. But I could probably, where I am, print 300-400 shirts a day.
That's so... Dude.
Yeah, I still need a little equipment. I need it's UV dryer, basically. It's just a bunch. It's almost like a tanning bed, but the shirts go through it and it dries the ink, basically. So if you don't put it through UV, it'll still wash off in a washing machine and stuff. So either you put the shirts...
Good. Listen, I don't know if you've heard Infinite Plane Society talking about the art exhibition that it's got coming up for the month of July, or is it July? For the whole month. So why don't you make something screen?
Well, I wouldn't really know what to contribute actually on right now. I've got a lot of work to do here because I have to get suppliers. I have to get in touch with Jersey, Harvey Woods, the Stanfields, the whole bunch of them, because basically I have to get the shirts at $1 each. Yeah. That's about the average price, but I have to buy grosses, which 144 at a time and stuff.
Yes.
So I have to be real careful not to produce stuff that I can't actually sell.
Yes. So the reason I say this is, if you made something, it could be a flag, for instance, okay? Send it up there and sell it, but also have your details. So it won't sell until after, it won't come off the wall until after the whole exhibition. You've got everybody who's seen it, which means...
I'm not set up probably enough for this art show and stuff that's going on. But again, this is going to go on for a long time, the Flat Earth. It's the new change. So, the way I see it, it's time to, if you're going to be serious about stuff, you either go all the way in or you go all the way out. The way I see it, I was brought up to, try to have a certain level of honesty and values. And when I see the society that I've been performing for, been ripping me off through the government, through these swindles, through these, hook and crook deals that never end, and all the money that we should have and should be going to things that we need is being siphoned off by, a network of pedophiles. Let's face it. It's got to end.
Yes, it does. It does have to end. And we have to be, I don't want to say tactical, because that can be kind of extrapolated into, an extremist mentality or a warlike, tactics.
No, but firmness. I mean, like a father, he's not going to kill his kids or nothing. In the end, we all have to live in this world together.
Methodical. Yeah. We have to be methodical. We have have to continue and not just navel gaze. The earth is flat and now I'm going to navel gaze and I'll just tell passers-by, if I can be bothered. It's like, okay, if you want to do that, but maybe do it for a reason. Have an intent behind it. Sorry, I'm just reading a message here. By the way, Jimbo, would you angle your camera down so that people can see more than the top of your head? They can see your mellow, happy face.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I don't see what it's seeing now. My camera is froze, I think. Oh, it takes 20 seconds. I'm on the wrong page. Forgot about the delay.
Some very interesting points. I was just reading Philippe's point. I tell you what, guys, okay, I don't mean this to sound like I'm blowing my own trumpet. And when you hear it, you think, yeah, why did you even say that? It's not blowing your own trumpet. But I get a lot of messages, a lot of emails, a lot of people communicating with me. And so much of what they're communicating, I think, why don't you have a channel where you're communicating this kind of stuff? Because so much of the stuff that they're communicating is profound, it's important. And I think, dude, you come to me with this is freaking huge. There's one guy, Nigel Groves, out there, it's like, what is this huge, profound thing? Wow. So this is something that we will be working on very soon. And it's very profound and it's to do with light. And that's all that I can tell you guys. But it's huge, not just light, just I don't know. I don't want to say more than that, but huge things. And so many people contact me with big things, big observations, and they don't have channels or they haven't put it out there. And I think this is what I've been trying to do from like day one. I'm trying to encourage people to not be shy, to come in. And, so now I'm going to check my email because there was somebody in the chat who wanted to come in who's not been on before. Contribute. Don't be shy. If you don't want abuse, if you're a new contributor, you will get so much abuse from trolls, but you can just disable your comment. You can do that. That's totally fine. Disable your comments until you've been around for a while, then enable comments, and then watch how, if you've been around for a while, the trolls, they won't pick on you like they do when you're brand new, which is what they do with brand new channels.
Also, you can set up filters. It takes a little bit of time, but if you do it properly, any really disgusting words or any derogatory terms can be caught by the filters. So they may well be messaging you disgusting, abusive stuff, but you don't even see any of it because it's caught by the filters, which I find hilarious because they're spending all this time putting effort into being abusive and disgusting and derogatory and offensive and insulting, and you don't even get to read what they've done, which is really funny to me.
Yeah.
Well, part of the problem with all of this is actually an information overload because there's so many domains and so many tangents that relate that, something like light is an element in itself to consider. Solar tracking is a whole nother domain. The moon is actually another point of interest. So there's so many kind of fields. It almost needs a database or like a flat earth wiki for some stuff, a content management system. But administering something like that ain't easy,
Tell me about it. Sorry.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Preaching to the choir.
But I tell you what Charles said, some very good points there.
Very valuable interchange tonight with Mr. Charles. He is actually, I believe, very upfront and truly believes what he believes. He's not malicious about it. These are genuine, beliefs, and they're substantiated by his experience. So it's not like denial like some Globers have, Yeah. He's speaking out of his own experience. And it's genuine for him. It doesn't remove the fact that Lake Pontchartrain doesn't have a 110-foot lump in the middle of it that you should be able to water ski down to get back to the shore. Mm-hmm. It doesn't change the fact that there's some pictures. I guess it's a P900 from a guy on the shore of Lake Pontchartrain, 13 miles away from the actual causeway. The causeway is maximum height is 50 feet over the water where they have the places for the boats to pass under. The rest is around 40 feet. Yet you can see from 13 miles away the full span of the causeway and the space and gaps underneath it, as well as the arches.
Have you seen the similar footage of the oil rigs?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's very interesting with the lensing, with the what Rob Skiba has shown. That lensing, you look at these two, they're distant, and By the way, we're going to be joined by somebody called Matthias, who's not been in a hangout before. So let's welcome him. Let's make him feel welcome.
Jaron did a nice one with the churches that were, I guess, 163 miles away, backlit by the sun once a year out in the Mediterranean, and there should be an extra 2,000 feet of curvature that you shouldn't even see the tip of the mountain.
Yes.
Yet you see the whole, or the church. He did mountains too, I think.
Yes, he did.
Or someone else did.
He did the mountains. He had various mountains.
Yes.
And the same with the church and the church spires. And
you could see a second church in the background. Don't know how many more, 50 miles away.
Who knows how far? But you
didn't even think of checking that one.
This is one of the things that just makes me sometimes just go, oh, forget it. It's when you point something like this out and the person you're pointing it out to says, well, why can't you see the seashore over there?
I know.
You're seeing something that's supposed to be not there. You're seeing something that's supposed to be over there on the other side of the boat, like round the corner, something that's round the corner. That's what you're seeing. In fact, that's what I'm going to start doing. I'm going to start using.
The fact is that it happens so many times that people resort to that. It's almost like it's programmed in or conditioned.
But you know what it is, Jimbo? It really is lack of logical thinking. This really is what it is. It's lack of logical thinking. When I was explaining to them, apologies, the moon, the distance between the Earth and the moon versus the moon's diameter, and how many moons with that would be.
Not many.
But when you do this, though, when you get the moon, when you get any object and you say, okay, now we'll call this the moon, you can work a ratio and how many of those you put together, and then let's see whether you can see a crater the size of the crater on the moon, any of the craters on the moon. It's just, you're not going to see it. The ball, whatever the ball is, it's going to be too small at the distance, because the bigger the ball is, the bigger the distance is going to be. So you can start with a marble if you want, and at the end of maybe 3 meters, you're going to have a freaking tiny marble. The angular size, the angular resolution of the marble is going to be tiny. For anybody who wants to check this, get a tube, any tube, make a tube out of a sheet of paper, and make a tube that's uniform, and look through it, and notice how small the end of the tube is on the other side, and it's only short. And this is how our angular resolution works. This is literally how angular resolution works.
There's the thing too, people have a hard time accepting that the sun has different sizes visually when we see it in the sky. They say, no, it's always the same size. When it's at high noon, it's about the size of your thumbnail when you look at it. When it's on the horizon, it's looks wide, looks huge sometimes. So if they can't see that it goes from a thumbnail to, I don't know, a hot air balloon, if they can't see that much difference and change, something's not registering.
This is what I mean. It's logical. It's lack of logical thinking. So they can't experience. So this is what we're talking about. If you had curvature and you had somewhere here beyond the curvature, you would not be able to see it because you would have to see through the Earth. And when you show this and they think, well, this is around the Earth, and the way that you can tell that it's around the Earth is because you can't see the beach. It's like, no, if it was around the Earth, then you wouldn't see any of it. You would have to be looking through the ground in order to see it. Never mind the beach. We're talking about the freaking mountains. They're saying, why can you not see this very thin line? And we're saying, why can you see the
whole mountain?
And then so this is why I bring it. I'm bringing it to the gyroscope. Why does the gyroscope not process when you spin it and you leave it alone on your desk? It should process. It should drift, and it doesn't.
And like the ones that they proved it with decades or centuries ago was no way near as fine a instrument as today. It couldn't spin for half an hour. Of course.
Foucault was a fraud.
They were all frauds. Let's face it, they were all frauds. A whole bunch of them.
No, listen, this is important for people to know. He really was a fraud, because when you calculate that he was doing his experiment from Paris and you look at the latitude, latitude and you look at the supposed drift, then you see that his numbers don't actually match. So here's something that doesn't process at all. And he says, well, mine did. I mean, he says from beyond the grave, like, no, it didn't.
Well, I look at it this way too now. Like Newton, he had the title of Sir Isaac Newton. Well, I'm sorry, there's Sir Elton John. I love his music, but I really don't think he did anything like a knight or, someone who did, except for being a composer and a musician, anything that merits being a freaking knight, like David Bowie. He made a few films and sang.
All of that whole it's parochial is what it is. You have the British royal family with its British parochialisms, which is we give you knighthoods. You have other royal families and they have their parochial qualities and they engage with those. It's arcane. It's arcane. It's from the past. At some point in the future, this will all be in humanity's history, where they had kings that went to war, and then they had kings that were political figureheads. Then you had kings that were no longer political figureheads, but were emblems of the former kings, which were political figureheads, and so on and so on. And it will just be history. It will say in the past there were kings and queens, but right now we still have them. And I don't know what. It's just one of these things. What are you going to do? It's the world we live in at the stage we live in. So that's it. What can you do?
I still believe no one should have the right to rule by bloodline or give them any authority. You can be born a piece of shit like that and a total turd and have all this power. It's wrong.
It is wrong. Of course it's wrong. Of course it's wrong. But then, if we get into this kind of conversation, we end up talking
it's not flat Earth.
No.
Drift in a bit.
Yeah,
but it relates back to the lies. Like I say, Newton was a sir. And that helps to reinforce his gravity.
Yes.
Because he was a sir, so obviously there's something important about him. So his science couldn't have been, you know what I'm saying?
And Copernicus was heavily involved with the church when the church was at the height of its influence. And I mean, literally the height of its influence, because it was overt. Now its influence is covert. We have to be aware of this. The Vatican's influence now is covert. Back then it was
the Vatican's a bank. It's not a church.
It's whatever. It's covert now. Now it's in secret. Back then it was overt. It was exposed.
Well, you got the Illuminati running around within it, and they can kill any pope that doesn't do what they want him to do. That's all there is to it. And you do it our way or you're dead, poisoned, and overnight. New pope, more smoke out the chimney. Hey, we got a new pope. It can happen quick,
But do you know what I say? Okay, we can resent it, or we can celebrate not them, but we can celebrate the fact that we're living at this time. Because think about it. Let's jump ahead 50,000 years in the future. Things will be different, will be much more improved. And 50,000 years in the future, all of this stuff will be 50,000 years and more in the past. And people will study it. I was going to say we'll read about it. I don't know if they'll read it. Maybe just receive it through microwaves, whatever. But people will learn about it and wonder what it was like in those days. God, can you imagine having these tokens that you had to exchange in order to have food and things? They won't understand properly the concept of money because they won't have had it for a long time. All kinds of things would be different.
Yeah, that's a possibility, but it seems through human history we've always used something, whether it was salt or tea or, metals and coins as a form of currency,
Yes, but that's our belief, and we live in the West. We live in the West. We don't think of the pre-Roman era.
Marco Polo was like a merchant, right?
Yeah.
Marine, all this stuff. And look, and what this is one thing, and anyone can check it. When people say that Columbus or whoever discovered America, it wasn't lost. If you look at churches built before Columbus came to America, in Spain, they have mace in the stained glass windows. Mace is a product of North America. They could have not known about it and put it in stained glass without having known North America was here. So how come mace in the stained glass in Spain predates Columbus? People, really?
Well, so this is what happened. If people want to know, okay, and I'm just going to spitball, I hate that expression. I'm just going to posit something. So the Vikings go from Norway to Iceland.
Newfoundland.
So Iceland, Greenland, Newfoundland interact with the Indians.
Bering Strait,
all of this, okay, and back and forth, okay, and that's it. But because they're not war warlike because they are not warlike. So we have them painted as this warlike tribe. Okay, the Indians don't describe them as a warlike tribe. The North American Indians, they don't describe them like that at all. So, but anyway, so they go back and forth, and that's what they do. And they're local-minded. They don't veer south very much. They don't go to the tropics and engage with all that warlike mentality, because we have to remember this: war mentality comes from arid regions. It's water scarcity that causes war. If you look at the history of warfare, I forget the name of the writer. The history of warfare, it starts in the Middle East. In the Middle East, because it's arid. This is where the first fortresses, where the most ancient fortresses are arid. Okay, well, it's not arid in freaking Norway. That's not arid. In fact, it was lovely. It was anyway. So those guys travel back and forth and back and forth, and eventually travel to the south, and eventually the Romans interfere with them, and Mace happens. They know about Mace, and then the churches happen, and then, you know, they've been traveling to the north. The Vikings have been traveling to the north. The people in the north didn't use gold and silver as any kind of aggrandizement. It wasn't used as money by the Aztecs and the Inca. They didn't use gold as money. They used it decoratively. They used it for medals, for cups, for all kinds of stuff, but they didn't use it for money. They used chocolate for money. That's what they used for money. So they're going back and forth. The Spanish hear about this gold stuff, and they're like, right, okay, well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to go over there. We're not going to go following the latitude line and end up in New York. That's Northern Americans. They don't have gold. We're going to go further south. That's where they have gold. And that's what they did. And lo and behold, here comes somebody who goes directly there, gets gold, comes back, and so on and so on and so forth. That's what happened.
Well, the North couldn't have been so bad if it became a favorite place for many people to journey to. You know, up north around the Bering and stuff, it can't be so frosted, or they just said, don't go there. It's no point. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So there's information about the North that we're not being told.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of information, including, part of the globe deception. Once they understood that the globe is a deception from the map making. So it will have been from the map making that they thought, wait a second, these coordinates don't really work, and they don't work because of this region here. And the south is like, somebody else can go and study that. I'm studying the north, said Mercator. So there's a whole bunch of extra stuff there, and we can't fit that. So they said, okay, we'll just take it out. And that's exactly what they did. They took it out. The region of the north, the Bargos Islands and Mount Meru,
what they did was they did a foreskin pull with the Greenland, and they made it huge, and they used that terrestrial foreskin to cover up Mount Meru.
Yes.
Whatever's there.
Yeah. And then when people looked at the globe and said, wait a second, this seems extra big, they said, oh yes, that's just because of globe manufacturing. Like, where if this place is a globe, you don't need to warp anything. You just display it exactly as it is on a globe.
They also warp it on the flat maps. It's huge on flat maps, more than half the size of Africa. It's bigger than Quebec. And really, I don't know how many miles it is square, but it ain't no way near as big as Quebec or Africa.
Yes.
I think it's 8.8 million miles.
Yes, it is.
To 11 or 14 million for Africa.
Yeah.
But on the map, it looks the same damn thing. Funny how that works.
So what does it look on a globe if we make it its actual size? It'd be this big void.
Very small. It'd be like, I don't know, like, you know.
Yeah, but if they depicted it on the globe, its actual size, then it would look like there was a great big, huge area at the north, which is what we actually do have in the real world, but they hide it by this circumcision that you described.
Well, I think they're hiding those 4 inflowing rivers around kind of 4 islands with the mountain in the middle.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but everyone wrote about it. Everyone talked about it. Well, then I don't think they were all dreaming, these people.
Do you know what I think is the why? I'm going to tell you what I think is the why. The why could be because there are people there that don't like being played with, that don't like being messed around with, and can defend themselves. That's what I think is the why. Let's just imagine for a second that the people there could switch the sun off.
Well, that's what I proposed before, that's probably why they put up that dew line and Camp Century up in the north, which serves no purpose now and it's falling apart and going to pollute everything. I mean, they're chasing ghosts or they're chasing something up there.
Sooner or later, people will be going there sooner.
Oh, it's the beginning of the end for the globe. It started a few years ago, and it ain't, like I say, the globe is a skeet, and the flat earthers are like rednecks with shotguns now. And they're out skeet shooting. I mean, skeets don't stand a chance if you're a good shot. I mean, and it shows because like the skeet followers there, they're going apeshit. They really, really are. In fact, a few of them are turning on each other sometimes there, which is kind of cool to see.
Yes, they are.
That's because they're failing. If they can't vent on us, they vent on each other. It's their form of vampirism, you know.
We have to think of this, okay, as well. What they're displaying is the symptoms of bereavement. That's what, if we think about it calmly and logically.
Phase of mourning, the defensive part first, though. There's several stages, eh?
Yes, and some of them they're all at different stages, you know.
Well, a lot of them that are around are here to prove it to themselves by trying to prove it to others, to get someone to say, yeah, you're right. Do you know what I'm saying? To prove to themselves. Their doubt is why they're here.
Yeah.
And so, if their doubt isn't abated, then they got this reaction because more information's getting in and that defensive wall has to go up, and usually like expressed with some aggression. Anyway, such as that. Don't feed the trolls is all.
Yes. So I'm looking up the 7 stages of grief, and I'm going to go through them, and I won't embellish on them. I will just read each one. So first, shock and denial. Second, pain and guilt. Third, anger and bargaining. Fourth, depression, reflection, loneliness. 5, the upward turn. 6, the reconstruction and working through. And 7th, acceptance and hope. Those are the 7 stages of grief.
Well, there'll be a few billion people going through it once, you know, the dust settles.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do? Well, it's better that, you know, it comes out now than later, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think, too, one of these pushes of the elite to form this, quote, new world order, they know it's flat. It was one of their attempts to consolidate, you know, their hold on everything. Knowing full well it's flat, that's not the point, though. But the so-called new world order is just these people who all know it's flat, just trying to consolidate their power, you know?
The new world order is failing, and we know it's failing.
Oh, yeah.
And they know
flat Earth is killing it.
Yeah, but it's failing because it was unrealistic, is what it was. It was unrealistic.
Well, technically, it's an empire, and there's never been an empire that you know lasted forever.
Yeah, and it's when you're megalomaniacal. Wow, there you go. That's a word. You surround yourself with people who stoke your ego, and they don't tell you this is too ambitious, this is not doable. So let me just for the record go over the 5 stages of grief, because there's the 5 and the 7, and these are the ones that people would be more familiar with. Number 1, denial and isolation. Number 2, anger. Number 3, bargaining. Number 4, depression. Number 5, acceptance. So when you're talking to a globeling, they will be at one of these. Number 1, denial and isolation, which means they don't want to associate with you. Denial. Second, anger. We've known this. Bargaining. Well, maybe what's happening. Okay. Depression and acceptance. That's it. So I don't know what it is that makes flat earthers be able to deal with that very quickly and not have the problems that the other people have. I think it's to do with how much attachment they have to the globe.
Not just that. A lot of us are a lot older. We've suffered deaths in our family and friends and everything. We've been through these stages more than once. Younger people, they haven't. They have no clue. So, you know, it's a lot less traumatic for us. It's still a problem. It's still painful, but we don't have the same kick in the head from it as you do when, you know, the first couple of times or whatever.
Remember heartbreak. Everybody out there. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask people in the chat, if we can all just bear with the next 30 seconds or so. People in the chat, will you type 2 if you're in your 20s, 3 if you're in your 30s, and 4 if you're in your 40s. So 2, 3, 4, 40s or over. Okay, so 2, 3, or 4, just so I can see the ages of people. Hey, quite a number in the 20s. That's really cool. Oh my God, that's so cool. Okay, so the reason I ask is Larry Siebens, 5 in June. Brilliant. 33, David 313. Okay, the question, so Johnny, write 2 if you're in your 20s, 3 if you're in your 30s, and 4 if you're in your 40s or over. Okay? Caveman 28, cool. Caveman, you're welcome to join. Oh, here comes a spanner, a wrench. I mean, the reason I ask is hopefully everybody remembers heartbreak. So type X, please, if you remember heartbreak. If you have experienced heartbreak.
I had the heartbreak of psoriasis.
What is this?
Like dandruff.
Okay.
There used to be a commercial, the heartbreak of psoriasis. So that's a heartbreak. It counts.
It doesn't count. Come on. Okay, so everybody's typing X. Okay, good. So the first heartache hurts so much, it's unexpected. It kicks you in the solar plexus. It's a blow. It's a big blow. And from time to time, you might have had heartbreak again. And if you have heartbreak as a teenager and you don't have heartbreak for a period of time, and then you have another heartbreak, it's like, poof, what a heavy blow. But if you have a series of them, it starts to be less of a blow. And it's what Jimbo's saying. Caveman. It's what Jimbo's saying. We've had blows. So the globe not being true, it's not such a blow. And I think that maybe what's happening with some of the globelings is they've had a blow that made them afraid of having a blow again. They then had a blow again and they didn't get past denial. And that's the stage at which they stayed. So pain, denial, it gets straight over to denial instead of to the pain and then the recovery. That's my thoughts. Flat Trotter SS, age is classified. Okay, we'll not discuss it with anybody else.
If he told you, he'd have to kill you.
Yeah, well, so don't tell me, for goodness sakes. I've got lots of people wanting to kill me. Caveman 444, I'm passing you a link if you want to jump in. It's been a while. Don't feel obliged to. I know there are camps being drawn and, I don't want to draw camps or any of that nonsense. But here comes a link. I tell you what, this silence is unnerving. And it's not unnerving because I don't like silence. I love silence. It's unnerving because it makes me think I've dropped.
I just wanted to say, when I was 18, I lost two friends that were violently murdered. And it was a very, very, very shocking, traumatic experience, not just for me, but for all of my friends, the circle of friends that I was in. And it was totally out of the blue, totally unexpected. It was very, very surreal and unbelievable. And I think that kind of, this is the right word to use, it toughened me up and made me experience things very quickly because, as you well know, at 18, you're still developing very much your character, your personality, not quite gone into adulthood. And as weird as it may sound, I think it was a helpful experience to go through. Obviously, I absolutely wish it hadn't have happened, but stuff like that happens.
And it makes you stronger. It does make you stronger. I urge people, if anybody hasn't actually looked into Nietzsche, because of first, pretty dense. It's dense. I don't know if the dense is heavy. It's heavy, okay, but it's not heavy like War and Peace or something like that. It's just heavy because it's like a series of punchlines, each of which is a profound punchline. So, but I urge people to read Nietzsche, and if you don't want to read Nietzsche, then find an audiobook or read Nietzsche. I wish I could read German and read it in the original language because I know that there are mistranslations like the oft-quoted, that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. No, that's not what he said. It's a long stuff about all kinds of, and the end of it is that which does not kill you serves only to make you stronger. In other words, if it serves for anything, it's to make you stronger. It could be that it doesn't serve for anything, okay? But if it has a service, if it serves for anything, it's only to make you stronger. So this is what we're talking about. That which doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Like tuberculosis doesn't make you stronger. It can make you weak for a long time. But so if it has a service, it's to make you stronger. That's the point. I'm looking in the chat. Open your eyes. Hey. Okay, guys, I think I might wrap up. Caveman 444, it looks like it's not coming in. And it's early in the morning here in the UK. And I think we've had a good run. Just communicated with Charles. And we're on for May 27th. The time we'll work on the time of day. I think is something that's good for the two of us. And So May 27th, there will be a debate between Charles Brayling, that's Flat Earth Math, and myself, and it will be a civil debate. It should be lots of fun. There should be lots of learning going on, especially by me. So, yeah.
Need a genuine thank you to Flat Earth Math Charles, too, for his input and the height of the norm and other stuff. Very, very valuable input. So thank you, Charles.
Yes, a huge thank you, a big thank you, a sincere thank you. The only way I can be insincere is when I'm joking. So, and I'm not joking. Thank you, Charles. Okay, everybody in the chat, thank you very much for joining us. Chris, thanks, man. And Zulu One, dude, you've been with me all the way through, so thank you.
Been a good one, Antonio.
Cheers, Dimbo.
Y'all have a great night.
Thanks. And let's fingers crossed for Hillbilly coming back soon, eh?
Yeah, I was wondering why he's been like 7 days without any sign of a post or anything.
It's financial struggle with the
internet and other stuff and medical, yeah.
Medical
enormous.
Bills. Hey, medical bills or internet?
I had a cut. It was 12 stitches. I was uninsured, and it cost $100 per stitch. It's $1,200 to sew up my leg. Yow! Well, they do it, and they can't leave you to die, but they do send you the bill, and you do have to pay it. Or down there they put liens on stuff. Well, they'll take your car, they'll take your house, they'll take your anything. So you have to pay it.
I'm gonna say something right now. My sister's a nurse. Okay, she's an emergency room nurse. She's a nurse, my sister. Now, if you get a cut that needs stitches, where these are not internal stitches, okay? So there are two types of stitches, internal stitches and external. If you need stitches to keep your skin together, then super glue.
Yeah, but I didn't know at the time. Yeah.
Yes, I am not joking. People,
I believe you.
I am not joking. This was developed by skateboarders and BMX cyclists, and now the military uses it. Okay, super glue.
What works. Like the military bought like a couple million cans of silly string, and people didn't understand why. Well, before you go in a room or in a building, you spray it, and if there are tripwires, it'll hang up on them and not, set them off. So that's why they have all the silly string they need. It's not for parties. It's
that's absolutely true. I shipped that stuff to my brother when he was in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah, and it's not for parties. It's to keep alive. So
so super, and this is just because we're talking medical. So super glue, it will stop.
They would have charged me $100 a drop.
Yes, they would. But if you have super glue, then you do it yourself. That's it. Super glue, and be careful because you've got damaged skin. But that's it. And
horsehair would do it too for stitching from the tail.
Yeah, but
that's what they used to do.
That's actual sewing. Stitch. Super glue. And this is not medical advice. I'm just talking. You have a wound. You put glue on one side of your cuts, and you hold it close together, and you let go gently, and you make sure it doesn't come apart. You don't touch it with your finger. Okay?
Or it'll stick.
Yes, you close it like this, tight. You let go gently, and that's it. You then wrap it up, okay? And despite glue being there, your cells will make their way through the glue and mesh. It's not like your skin will only be held together by super glue. The super glue will only hold the skin together whilst the skin meshes, okay? I know that my niece fell over, hit her head on a radiator, poor thing, and that's exactly what they did to her forehead, okay? So, and this is an English hospital. This is what they did. It's a lot less distressing to a child than stitches.
Oh, they hurt stitches. I am witness to that. They do hurt, even if sometimes they don't even inject you, because freezing it with Novocaine is almost as painful as getting, a few stitches. So
yes,
sometimes you just go raw on stitches.
So there you go. A discovery from the BMX and skateboarding guys in the 80s. So there you go. And it took a crazy guy to do that, It could have been a crazy woman, but I very much doubt it, because women, I'm not being sexist against men, but women are not quite as stupid as men. They don't jump off buildings to see if they can make it. So,
hey, Antonio.
Yeah.
Another quick medical thing to keep a roll of duct tape in your car. I don't know if that's what you guys call it in the UK.
Yes.
But that stuff works for everything. You could make a sling out of it. Hell, you could make a stretcher out of that stuff if you needed to.
Yeah.
Actually, on Mythbusters, they made a sailboat out of duct tape and actually sailed in the harbor with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We tend to call it gaffer tape here. But it's the same thing, isn't it?
I think gaffer is a job. Like on sets and stuff, you always have gaffers, like gophers, gaffers, and others.
Yeah, well, here, like...
I think that's where it came from, yeah.
Yeah, when you call it duct tape, like for, like...
Heating ducts and AC units.
Or 100 mile an hour tape.
100 mile an hour...
Tape, same thing.
Tape. Oh, right. So I tell you what's very good, the flat earth tape, that's freaking indestructible.
There you go, there you go.
It really is. I do.
From now on, it shall be referred to as flat earth tape.
Yeah, this is tougher than, the fragile tape for parcels. It's tougher than that. But anyway, so duct tape, we call it gaffer tape. Gaffers are the guys that set up electrical equipment and whatnot in set. And when they have cables on the floor so they won't move and trip up, they put tape over the cables, to keep them secured. Same thing, but yeah, totally. Have a roll of...
Yeah, they call them roadies in North America, I think.
Yeah.
Hey, what was that other weak flimsy tape you were talking about? Globe tape? Was that it?
No, flat earth tape.
No, I said the weak flimsy tape.
Oh, yes. The flimsy tape, the one that...
the globe tape,
yeah.
Well, good night again, all. It's been great.
Yeah, thanks, Jimbo. Thanks.
The next one.
Yeah, good night. I'm gonna head out too. I'm starting to fall asleep. Tomorrow's mommy's out. Got to go get my mouse, and she's a mom. It's gonna be crazy.
Absolutely, it is. You're going to love it, and she will too. So
yeah.
I will see you later. Sleep very well, okay, Zulu.
Antonio, thank you so much for having me. I had a blast. What a great evening. And Chris, you're the man behind the scenes, loving it.
Yes,
peace.
Loving it.
Take care. Thank you.
It was good. Good night. Good night.
Good
Talk to you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Chris, I will see you later. Yeah, bye.